It gives me a great pleasure to welcome everyone. We have gathered today to mark a special occasion wherein we are going to talk about cybersecurity issues of Web3. We have our most distinguishing guests here. In this beautiful morning, in this Tech Fusion track, we are going to have some substantial talk about Web3 and cybersecurity. When it comes to Web3, we talk about decentralized web, we talk about new paradigm shift in internet, where everything is decentralized and it goes peer-to-peer. Something that we have always heard is cybersecurity. I think every time that you log in somewhere and you write your password is a password, it says it's something different should be placed. If you write your name, it says it's a weak password. That means there is something called cybersecurity that has to be seen, that has to be noticed. Also, there have been a lot of cases and instances in banks. Sometimes I heard there was a news in AIMS. A software was hacked and some kind of ransom money was needed for the same. There are frequent cybersecurity attacks that goes around in the time. Smart contracts are vulnerable. Anonymous attacks can take place. There are so many things that I can ask my distinguishing guest today. To join the dais, I would like CA Chintan Patel to join the dais. CA Vikas Jain. We have with us CA Purushottam Khandelwal, CCM, a finance king, chartered accountant who knows everything from tax to audit. His skill is so vast, his leadership and power is super unsurpassed. I would like to ask Mr. Pankit Desai to join the dais, Mr. Preetam Rao, Mr. Pavan Duggal, Mr. Rohit Srivastav, and our moderator for the day, Jayajit Biswas. Give them a big round of applause. It's good to see a fellow fraternity friend doing good in this subject. CA Jayajit Biswas, a name that shines so bright, a true inspiration, a beacon of light. Through struggles and success, he's shown that something non-stop, who's determined on his own. A veteran in cybersecurity, a true leader, champion of SOX compliances for complex organizations and a true believer. Founder of Elite Web3 Forum, a visionary. His contribution to the industry is truly extraordinary. He's a very well-known personality in India. He began in all time with Tatas, as well as he's the founder of Elite Web3 Forum. His story of struggle as a differently abled person has taken place in Your Story Media along with many other renowned publications. He has been champion of SOX compliances. We warmly welcome you, sir. I request our CCMs and RCMs to welcome him. It's brilliant to have him here. It's coming. Yes. Next, yes. We have with us Mr. Pavan Duggal. He's founder and chairman of International Commission of Cybersecurity Law. As advocate, Supreme Court of India, Dr. Duggal has made an immense impact with international reputation as an expert and authority on cyber law, cybersecurity law, cybercrime law, artificial intelligence and e-commerce. Google Bard lists him as the topmost cyber lawyer in the world. Dr. Duggal has been acknowledged as top 4 cyber lawyers in India. We warmly welcome you, sir. His accomplishments are extraordinary in the world of cybersecurity. He is also president of cyberlaws.net, and he has been working in pioneering area of cyber law. We welcome you, sir, with whole heart. Preetham Rao. Mr. Preetham Rao is CEO and co-founder of Quills Audit. Quills Audit is leading Web3 security firm committed to secure blockchain products. So far, Quills Audit has acquired almost 700 plus projects. We welcome Mr. Preetham Rao, sir. We distinguishedly welcome Mr. Rohit Srivastav. Yeah. We distinguishedly welcome him on our startup track today. Mr. Rohit Srivastav is founder of Bharatverse, certified metaverse expert. He also provides training as well as coaching to students as well as corporates in this domain. Founder of Bharatverse, Bharat Ka Metaverse. Visual Cisco, various large enterprises, advisors, science and technology park. Deputy of Science and Technology with Government of India, mentor, advisor in various startup forums. We welcome him with full heart. His participation will make our community enlightened with new ideas of how cybersecurity is to be dealt with. Next, I take privilege to welcome Mr. Pankit Desai. Mr. Pankit Desai is co-founder and CEO of Quiritech, a cybersecurity, cloud security product and service company. He co-founded Quiritech in 2013 along with Anand Nayak and has been instrumental in growing the company into the leading provider of cybersecurity and cloud security. His journey has been mellifluous and tremendous. He is proud of the growth of the team, and within the short period of time, he has achieved a great success in the industry. The success of the company got boosted with 2 rounds of funding that he has got. His funding made him a unicorn venture. I congratulate all the people sitting on the dais, and I congratulate everybody sitting off the dais for joining us here for a very special session today. Security is one of the most important measures when it comes to Web3. We have the top tier people to talk with us about the same. Before everything, I'd like our Central Council member, Purushottam Khandelwal sir, to enlighten us by the welcome speech.
Good morning. Good morning. Respected panelist, Dr. Pawan Duggal ji, founder and chairman of International Commission of Cyber Security Law. Panelist, Preetham Rao ji, CEO, Quills Audits. Panelist, Pankit Desai ji, co-founder and CFO of Squints. Moderator of this session, CA Jayjit Biswas ji. Other panelists, Sri Rohit Srivastav ji. Regional Council members, CA Vikas Bhai Jain, Chintan Bhai Patel, and respected members. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome all in this morning first session of the second day of the startup fairs. The topic of today is a cyber security issue Web 3.0. Everybody knows that the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India organizing this startup fairs to showcase the government that we are a partner in the nation buildings. We are not doing only audit, income tax, GST and other compliance work, but we are also contribute something for the nations. How we can motivate our chartered accountants to do the startups, their own startup, or how to finance to the startup. And the president yesterday rightly said that the member, those who has passed the chartered accountancy course, is also doing a startup. It's a first he thought how to develop the practice, and he reached to the level. Cyber security Web3 is the based on the blockchain technology, and everywhere you know that the security is an important aspect when the technology used. So the expert panelist is here. I will not take much of time because the session is already running late. Again, I thank you everyone for coming and joining us. Thank you so much.
Good morning all. How many of you have taken sandwich in the breakfast? I don't know, but I am sandwiched between Mumbai Rain and Mr. Ramnath Kovind. So the time is only 45 minutes to 1 hour, not 1.5 hours. I may not justice to Dr. Pawan Duggal like eminent speaker over here, but the way I structure this session is that I will try to take 3 minutes of mine to introduce the subject, because cybersecurity is a very common word. It's almost reached the home it's a common subject between Web 1, Web 2 and Web 3. But how it is different in Web 3, I think now audience are break-even more than us. We are 5 or 6. So I want to talk in the language of a chartered accountant, break-even and all those stuff. Being a chartered accountant for 25 years and certified information system for 21 years, 13th member in India. So I try to understand how many of you know, yesterday you have started with a session on metaverse, then CBDC, then virtual digital asset regulation and all the stuff. But out of all this, what is the foundation? How many of you know cryptography? Raise your hand. How many of you know cryptography? 1. How many of you know public key, private key? 1, 2. What is the difference between public key and private key? No. Public key your room address and private key is your chabi. So don't share your private key to your wife itself. If you do not own your key, you cannot own your crypto. So all these things we'll try to ask our Web3 eminent speakers from the cybersecurity aspect, how to keep your private key secure, what are the legal consequences of Web3, cybersecurity and privacy, how we talk about digital twins, avatars. Dr. Pawan Duggal will, and Rohit will, when he talk about Bharatvash, he will make you understand what is digital twins, avatar, how will you keep the data privacy thing intact in the Web3, a bigger and larger picture under GDPR and Indian new Digital Data Privacy Act. So we try to, I am giving you the word, I have requested all my panelists to talk to the very close to the chartered accountancy or the accountant's language, not at the niche technical language. Even you can ask, what is the difference between smart contract audit and a statutory audit? You may ask, because you may not know what is smart contract audit. For that, Pritham Rao from Quill Audit here will make you understand what is smart contract audit. And you will also, you have learned contract under Indian Contracts Act 1872, I think. Indian Contracts Act. But whether smart contracts are yet to be figured out in Indian Contracts Act, Dr. Pawan Duggal will answer that. So I stop here. I am giving the mic to Rohit to speak for 5 minutes about his venture in Web3.
Hey, thanks. Morning, everyone. The idea to discuss here is primarily towards cybersecurity, but I'll take this moment to also show you in 2 small videos on what are we doing with Bharatverse. Let that be running in the background, and let that be running in the background. That's what we do at Bharatverse. We are trying to create a metaverse experience of Bharat, and if you know, we're calling it Bharatverse and not Indiaverse. We want to showcase the real Bharat to the world. So while creating this metaverse experience, although at one side the idea is to make sure that the content, the rich content of this glorious country is reaching out to the audience, but at the same time, this metaverse experience or any other metaverse experience of so kind, is it bringing the real, or is it providing the real safety and security as well? That's what would be the primary focus of ours when we are creating this. And that way we are helping other metaverses as well to make sure the setup is secure in a way. What you see is what, once you wear a VR glass on your head and experience something, on a 2D screen, you may never reach that level of experience, but this is equivalent to what you can see once you are wearing it on your head themselves. These are the few properties which we have launched, focusing on the virtual tourism of the country. And I'll take you to this video, which will give you much better idea of how does it look. That's me wearing the glasses, and what you see is what I see on that. So you can feel that this is a 2D browser screen in front of you. And once you go into the VR mode, you feel like being present there. The idea to showcase this parallelly was to make you understand what a metaverse is or could be. It doesn't have to be a gaming, it doesn't have to be a 3D animation. It could be a real virtual experience of the place. So with a controller, I'm moving around in this room, looking up, looking down, turning around. And that's how you can visit any place and see the beauty of that place. Somewhere ahead in the room, you can actually go around and see things. So that's not the whole objective of it. The idea is, while you are creating metaverse, and this was one question asked to me by a lot of people, with metaverses to come in, with digital identities to come in, how are we planning or how are we supporting other metaverse creators to be secure and make sure that A, there is no alteration. There's nothing confidential about it, so though we are not worried about the confidentiality part of it, but integrity and availability part of the secure metaverse, how is that to be maintained, how different avatars can be safe, how the identities can be maintained. And that's what our effort is. That's how when we consult people and tell them about what you can do to make sure that whatever you are creating, it could be Web 2, Web 3, and other stuff. Whatever you are creating, you're maintaining the security and sanity with it. We're living in this world where the tech is running at a very, very fast speed of reaching towards private key, public key, and other stuff. And in the real world, we are facing problems like people are not even able to manage their Gmail accounts and personal mobile phone safeties, right? At that speed, what matters more is a right level of awareness to be brought in, and how can we use that so that at least you guys are on the forefront, because as a CA, you would be managing money for people, either for your organization or for your clients. If you are not on the forefront and running with the secure mindset, it's difficult for everyone. That's my message. I think this community should be the first one to learn about security of internet as a whole, consider Web 1, Web 2, Web 3, or even the upcoming webs. Keep your mindset at the base, keep your fundamentals clear, learn the latest one. In a nutshell, you don't have to be an expert in all of those domains, but at least know how it works so that you can help and save your organizations. With that, I'll pass it on and we'll continue in the discussion. Thanks.
Well said. But just as I tone down all of my panelists to be very down to earth, to an accountant's mindset, so we try to make a travel from your normal door key, which is a public key, and a door key, which is a private key, how to make a yourself process. We talk about people process technology. What is technology? You have a key. What is process? Every time you go out from the house, you have to key in the house. But who is the person will key in? It is you. So people matters, it is irrespective of Web 1, Web 2, Web 3. Until and unless you know and you make your client know what is the secured way of living in internet, irrespective of Web 1, Web 2, Web 3, forget about keeping your first step in crypto world. You know all your exchange you talked about yesterday, they are keeping your private key. And believe me, if one day they are wiped out, like FTX, all your money gone. So, I am repeatedly second, but I am telling, I will tell for 7 times, count it. Don't share your key, then share your crypto. So hold your private key in a proper hard wallet, learn how to do it, or MetaMask, learn it, then enter into crypto. Yesterday, Riddhi Jain was telling, can I share my wallet address? You put some airdrop in it. I asked Riddhi Jain that, can you say your private key is safe? Let me take this question from Dr. Pawan Duggal.
Thank you, sir, for your kind words. As somebody who works on the legal issues, I thought let me bring on the table something which is particularly got to do with legalities. So, I think when you talk of Web 3.0, everybody only talks of technical terms. Nobody really talks of legal terms. The presumption is that the normal law would be applicable to Web 3.0, a logical presumption, but not necessarily a correct presumption. Because Web 3.0 brings across its own unique kind of approaches, whether it's a manifestation of blockchain, whether it's a manifestation of metaverse or emerging technologies. It's a different ballgame altogether. So just to say that my 23-year-old Indian cyber law would be applicable to Web 3.0 will be an overstatement. We will need to do a lot of things. Why? Because now Web 3.0 is not in its own isolated island. It's getting connected with a lot of connected technological paradigms, whether it's Internet of Behavior, whether it's Internet of Things. But now with GPT-4 coming in, I think Web 3.0 has to now look at a new paradigm, because the intermarriages between generative AI and Web 3.0 are beginning to throw up new distinctive challenges. 3.0, the Web 3.0 has to be mindful of how ChatGPT and GPT-4 could potentially change the landscape in terms of output, which will then go ahead and populate on Web 3.0. On ChatGPT, how many of you are using ChatGPT, please? Everybody, I think everybody. How many of you know that your profiles are being made in California? Not many people know about it. Okay, some people know about it. Do you know ChatGPT is like an ancient monster? It listens to you. It wants to read what your mind wants, and then it's going to play the same music that you would want to hear. So it's going to give you the same answers that you would like to listen to, independent of the fact that whether they are authentic, whether they are verified or not. But I think it's not just generative AI, it's general artificial intelligence and the developments that are taking place, which will have to be married and mapped up from a legal landscape on Web 3.0. Because cyber security, we are still struggling in the real world. We are struggling on Web 1.0, 2.0. So 3.0, we automatically have to struggle. There's no denying the fact. But I think legal frameworks are still far, far behind. Blockchains has matured as a technology. Yes, the crypto winters have set in, but that does not mean that the legalities pertaining to cryptos don't have to be dealt with. Some countries have already begun to start dealing with these legalities in a remarkable way. For example, Belarus has come up with a dedicated legal framework on legal recognition of crypto assets and currencies. I was involved in this drafting of this legislation and worked with the Belarus government in this regard. Internet of Things also has got an overlap with the Web 3.0. And once that happens, the unique kind of legal challenges on Internet of Things and Web 3.0 will have to be specifically looked at. Because these IoT devices, how many of you have an IoT device at home? Okay, I see, but you have it in your luggage. Okay, and you have about 5-6 people who are raising your hands. Indians have a very bad habit. They like to put their IoT devices in their bedrooms for a variety of reasons, without realizing that these IoT devices are listening to you all the time. I recently did a case where a woman was very angry with her husband. They came back from a party and they were fighting, and they slept off. 4 o'clock in the morning, the woman gets up, goes to the kitchen, takes a kitchen knife, comes back and cuts the private part of the husband. And while she's doing that, she's madly shouting as a woman, you did this to me, and therefore I'm giving you punishment. Little did she realize that when the police is going to come and investigate, they will find this IoT device, they'll be able to get the logs, and they'll be able to get the complete audio recording of what she actually said. Now that becomes incriminating evidence as we go forward. We're all wonderfully talking about Digi-Yatras of the world, right? But do you realize that when you do your Digi-Yatra, your facial recognition is going where? What kind of a cyber security is happening? Nobody has the slightest of clue. And why so? Because India doesn't have a dedicated cyber law in place. We are talking about the metaverse. Rohit talked about the Bharatverse, a remarkable initiative. But metaverse brings across its own legal challenges. The biggest challenge being pertaining to avatars. Is my avatar legal? Can it be granted legality? Is it an extension of my legal personality? And should an avatar do something, can I be held responsible? I recently did a case where a female avatar of our client got digitally raped on the metaverse by a male avatar. Now the client wanted us to pursue digital rape charges. My problem is the law still does not recognize digital rape. So we had to go under tampering of electronic records as we go forward. But ultimately, I think I need to see Web 3.0 from the perspective of edge security. Because these things are going on and overlapping, and we are having these challenges in terms of data protection, in terms of privacy, in terms of other legal issues, including retention. Well, we are all beginning to start using digital avatars. It's not the avatar 2.0 that you have become fascinated with. Go to Korea, and you find more and more people dependent on digital avatars for their day-to-day activities. But then again, the digital avatars bring across its own challenges. Can we legally recognize digital avatar? If my avatar does legal harm to your digital avatar, or a legal harm to you, my digital avatar defames you. Can you or can your digital avatar sue me? Or can they sue my digital avatar? Fundamental questions. Digital twins as a technology is wonderfully going well, but it brings across its own distinctive challenges, which has to be seen in the context of Web 3.0, particularly the legalities and the legal policy issues. On digital assets, the world is still moving ahead, but India is in a state of suspended animation. India still does not want to know what it wants to do. So the finance minister tells you, please give me a 30% tax when you buy or sell your digital assets. But then does not tell you that even if when you give your 30% tax, whether your digital assets will be legal or not. They will continue to be illegal for the very simple reason that there is no law in the country which legalizes your digital assets. Well, at a very, very broad level, you can say your digital asset is an electronic record. And that's been granted legality under Section 4 of the Information Technology Act 2000. But I think Web 3.0 is still going to face a huge legal problem from the perspective of the darknet per se. Because more and more attacks on the Web 3.0 are going to take place from the darknet. The law enforcement agencies have been clueless right now on how to attribute things on the darknet, and that cluelessness will still continue when we talk of attacks from the darknet onto Web 3.0. But the biggest issue is, where would Web 3.0 jurisdiction lie? Can my court here in Bombay be entertaining my lawsuit against somebody in Alaska? Because some activity happened on Web 3.0, the law is not very clear. But yes, the Delhi High Court in Banyan Tree judgment has categorically said that your web presence, and that will automatically include your Web 3.0 presence, must have a proactive, targeted approach towards the forum state as we go forward. The good news is that there is no dedicated law on Web 3.0. The equally good news is that countries have nonetheless come up with dedicated national cyber security laws, cyber laws per se, inspired by the UNCITRAL model law on electronic commerce. India has come up with its own cyber law, which is more than 23 years old as we go forward. But I think our law is now outdated. 23 years back we came up with this law. We only amended it once in 2008. But now with the advent of social media, Web 3.0, IoT, and now generative AI, we are yet finding that the law is completely inadequate to deal with this. So therefore, the bottom line is, we have to realize that we in India are facing a policy vacuum. We don't have a cyber security law, we don't have a privacy law, we don't have a data protection law. In that kind of an ecosystem, the best approach will be that we'll have to adopt cyber security as a way of life. If you are a CA, please remember that you become an intermediary under Section 21W of the Information Technology Act 2000. You, apart from your governance by ICAI, are further mandated to exercise due diligence while you discharge your obligations under law, which means that you will have to also follow reasonable security practices and procedures, which means effectively an ISO 27001. But don't worry, we are not very much behind. Globally also, there's a huge policy vacuum, no international cyber security law in place. So countries are saying, let me come up with their own distinctive national laws in cyberspace. And I think these national cybersecurity laws could ultimately even be made applicable in the context of Web 3.0 as we go forward. I think my time is up. I'm going to just pause here and we'll open up for further discussions. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Pawan sir. I try to get one answer. Riddhi is here. Riddhi, when you were exposed to crypto? 2017. Do you know, I am sitting behind a gentleman who was exposed to internet, darknet, and exposed to crypto on 2009. That point of time, he was holding 967 Bitcoin on behalf of Government of India. And he has donated everything to Government of India. I thought yesterday that if Aza to de deta. So the cyber security experts are the most ancient people of crypto because they were roaming around the darknet from the days of 2005, 2006, 2008. Then Mr. Satoshi Nakamoto came to invent the Bitcoin, not before the cyber experts. And cyber experts seen the money laundering, cyber terrorism, and all those stuff in the darknet. And then they came to know that only paper currency is not the medium of money laundering. There is a digital and a cryptocurrency, and then they did not understood the value of crypto at that point of time. Otherwise, Rohit could have been greed to at least hold one crypto or Bitcoin. But that point, it was the medium of exchange, converting a paper currency to a digital currency, and to bypass the national law to pay for a wrong cause in a darknet, drug trafficking and everything. So now, after hearing yesterday about metaverse, CBDC, digital currency, I will ask Pritam to touch about what is fungible token, what is non-fungible token. You will hear later on from Ravikant, Lisa Ray and all, NFT. But why I am talking about NFT and tokenization, what are the audits around NFTs, smart contracts? Pritam will keep on highlighting and he will mention his tool which are used to do that smart contract.
Hello. So what we do in smart contract auditing, let me break down first key, what are the smart contracts, right? As a CA perspective, what are the smart contracts? So last month I was in one event in Singapore, and like here, like many CAs asked me, can we become smart contract auditor, right? Even in the LinkedIn, so many auditors are, sending me message, I want to become a smart contract auditor, right? And I'm telling them it's not that auditing that you guys are doing. It's completely different, right? So what we do in smart contract auditing, let me break down. So as we know, smart contracts are just a code that is written on the blockchain that is self-executing on based on some preconditions, right? Like if I'm sending, like just assume if there is any day, automatically some assets will transfer to the second party, or maybe some events will happen, right? This is we call a smart contract, right? And it's a Web3 smart contract. In Web2, we are writing the smart contracts in a traditional way, the contracts we are having, right? The smart contract auditing is a more technical, where you should be having the understanding of the new language, that is Solidity, and where we identify the bugs and the vulnerability in the code, right? So in Web2, we are writing the normal contracts, the legal agreements. In Web3, we are writing the, you can say, the code in a new language. And as an auditor, we are identifying, or we are making sure there is no bugs, there is no vulnerabilities. Your contract is working based on the, your white paper, or your, what you are trying to build, right? So that's the main difference between normal auditing and the smart contract auditing. And how, as an auditor, we can, collectively work and more make this ecosystem more safe and secure. Okay. As an auditor, as a technical guy, I know how to identify the bugs, how to see the code and everything. As an auditor, the CA is having more expertise in how to do the reporting, how to do the financial statements. What should be the internal checks in your code should be having according to the financial regulations of India. If you're launching your product in Dubai or Singapore, right? So these things the CAs understand more in depth, right? So in this way, the normal auditors, the CA and the smart contracts auditors can work together. And I think that's all, yeah.
I can just what Pritam wanted to say, little bit marginal. Smart contract audit is nothing but a source contract audit. What is source? That is what is written in the code. Somebody has to figure out manually, somebody has to figure out by a tool. But the challenge is that how to convert the technical bugs to make your client server in a layman's language. Now the chartered accountant can come into play to handhold Pritam to understand the technical flaws in the source code, make your client understand how to remediate it, and Ms. Dr. Pawan Duggal then come into play to make it legally viable under new law when it will come, when the smart contract audit is fulfilled, remediated and cleaned. Then every tangible people are all professional in Web3. The beauty of Web3, chartered accountant cannot alone sustain. Pritam Rao alone cannot sustain. Dr. Pawan Duggal cannot alone sustain. Only the sustainable thing is a community. And I am heading the India's biggest community in India. That is Elite Web3 Forum. And we will be going in a mass scale, and we will be share it publicly. You can join in Telegram. I now give to Pankit to make you understand that about his journey from Web 1, Web 2 and Web 3. What are some niche thing he has understood how Web 3 security is different than Web 1, Web 2?
Yeah. Thank you. So I've been in this industry for about 30 years, seen the tech waves from the early 90s to 2000s to 2010s and then now 2020s. And as technology started becoming mainstream, I still remember in the late 90s, early 2000s, any company in India, for them, being on internet meant having a website. And a static page is all that was needed for you to announce yourself that you've arrived in the world. And with poor bandwidths and limited connectivity, that was all one could aspire to have a digital presence. From there to becoming a mainstream capability where you are not only telling your prospects who you are, what you do, but also carrying out transactions. arrival of iPhones and better bandwidths made sure that people wanted to have some app and announcing that I have an app on mobile phones, and therefore that's what it means for me to have a capability to interact with my community. And in the last few years is this whole journey, at this point of time, a bit of a early adopter wave of Web3, where people are trying to dabble into areas to try and see what it means to me as an organization. Each of them, and in some ways I think this is like the classic case of 6 blind men and the blindfold men with the elephant, and each one touching a different part of the elephant and having a different perspective of what they are seeing. So it could be NFT, it could be DeFi, it could be IoT, AR, VR, a bunch of things being thrown around. But in my personal view, as companies are embracing it, I'm seeing significant security challenges that are coming in, and that's true with any early adopters. Every other technology, for most part, was unidimensional, by which I mean is that the controls remained in a very narrow band. So if you look at the traditional internet, it was the internet provider, a hosting capability, and a software or an app that you would build that were hosting that, or 2 or 3 players getting involved in making you ready for public consumption. If you look at mobile, it was an app, an Android platform, maybe the device, and maybe the telecom service provider. Web3, on the other hand, is a conglomeration of completely different sets of technologies, and Pawanji kind of eloquently, and I was just going through each parts of this journey. You have an NFT, you have an IoT, you have AR, VR, you have the traditional communication channels, you have gamification. Each of them is a business and an entity of its own today. When you have varieties of these components coming together, thank you for reducing the lights, it's just hitting my eyes. If you have varieties of these components that come to you, there is a problem from a security perspective, which is about interoperability. How do handoffs happen between varieties of these components that are supposedly required to work together? What are the operating standards that you will interact? So in the web, it was TCP/IP, HTTPS, and you were having protocols that were used to interact. What are the equivalent protocols that are going to come up, and how people are going to interact with it? Third, what are the zero-day vulnerabilities that each of these assets on their own will bring in, and because now they are part of the same ecosystem, you would have transferability of those vulnerabilities from one end to the other. Fourth, as Pawanji alluded, no legal framework that exists today, and you are kind of trying to figure out the legal framework in the Web 2.0 world. Web 3 is still a far part of it. So let's say if my digital identity has been stolen, right? If someone is masquerading me as a digital twin, what is the remedy for me available today? If someone squats onto my property, if someone steals my NFT, someone steals my tokens, where do I go? What is the authority that exists today? So in my opinion, the way we stand today, why it is still not mainstream, and that's why some of this will be treated more like an exceptional case, and we'll probably learn from it. Mainstreaming will bring with it significant amount of challenges. And the last point I want to raise is, and I think, again, Pawanji alluded to it, the DigiYatra example about data. If Web 2 or Web 1 was consuming X amount of data, or you were generating for yourself X amount of data, Web 3 is 100X, 1000X, the amount of data that you will generate for yourself. That is going to be used by someone else, like what, this whole ChatGPT, you're trying to search and ask questions. They're actually understanding you, and there was a classic case of where Samsung and I think Apple banned use of ChatGPT into their environments, simply because you're putting your code for either testing purposes or for build purposes. That piece of code is now a ChatGPT IP. It is no longer your IP. Understanding some of these capabilities and what it means to you, I think, is an essential element of how we will have to all look at security in this context.
Thanks. At least you brought up the subject of privacy, data protection and all. And when we discuss the aspect of cybersecurity, now data privacy is an integral part of cybersecurity domain. You cannot discuss cybersecurity without data privacy and data security, at least in Web 3. So I have a person with the name of Rahit Srivastava who was 25 years in a security domain. Last 2 years he is venturing it into Bharatvash. My one simple question, as an entrepreneur or startup, earlier he has done 4 startups in security. Now this is the 5th startup on Metaverse or Web3. What type of precaution he has taken with the help of Dr. Pavan Duggal is also his consultant. Nice marriage, husband and wife both are here, client and lawyer. So both can illuminate us that building Bharat Bus, what type of security and legal precautions they have taken. Both of us, you can take jointly.
Thanks, Dada. A lot of secrets have been spilled already by Dada, and so I was just wondering on that previous comment of the coins. Had it been a few chiller left out in my pocket, I would have been a different position. But that being said, for any startup and entrepreneur, see, may it be a Web3 startup, a Metaverse startup, crypto, NFT, or even a regular, your own CA practice which you are trying to establish and getting 2-3 more practitioners together and set up an organization. Some things are always to be remembered, and I always say this on stage, that security is free. Security is cheap if it is not free. Do not consider it as an extra cost. Do not consider it as a extra cost of operation or cost of doing business. It actually makes your work easier, and there are a lot of easier solutions available. And Pankit will add on top of that how in an easy manner you can comply to the local regulations. The regulations keep changing with time. Recently, Cert India came up with their own requirement that you have to follow all of these while running any company. So any body corporate in that matter has to do it. These are not difficult things to follow. All you need to do is know them. So again, knowledge is being the first line of defense. Once you know what you have to do, and then if you have good friends around, you can always pick up the phone and call them and ask them that, okay, this is the next step which I'm trying to take. Is it on a right track or not? That much is sufficient for majority of the people. Because 2 things. One is your compliances, which you guys know better. And the second thing is your adversary, the people who are interested in attacking you. Compliances you can follow. There are guidebooks and rule books. And for security, remember one thing. When you're being targeted by a lion, you don't have to outrun the lion. All you have to do is outrun the slowest person. Right? That way, if you are improvising your security posture to a level that the ROI for the attacker is low for attacking you, he will move on to the next person. At least that will start bringing the security posture up for a lot of people. Now on the legal front and the compliance front, there are a lot of things to be added, a lot of things to be taken care of, but that experts will do more justice to that.
Thanks. Thank you. So the moment you do a Bharatverse or any kind of a Web 3.0 presence, while there's no specific law, please realize that you still are covered under the Information Technology Act, because when you are doing that offering, you become a network service provider and hence an intermediary under the Information Technology Act, which means that there are various compliances that you have to do. The government has now come up with IT Rules 2021, which you have to comply with. And now from 28th of June 2022, you all have an additional element of compliance. The moment you come to know of a cyber security incident, whether it's real or whether it's suspected, or a cyber security event, either real or suspected, you will have to report it within 6 hours of your coming to know about it to the nodal agency on cyber security, being the Computer Emergency Response Team. You don't report, the law says you already committed an offense under section 70B6 of the IT Act, punishable with 1 year's imprisonment and fine. Okay? What happens? That effectively happens for the next 7 years, a Damocles sword is going to hang on your head. Anyone can report, the government can prosecute it and you at any point of time. Therefore, whatever the local compliances are there will have to be complied with. Don't wait for Web 3.0 law to come in. Comply with the IT Act and rules and regulations made thereunder. If you have a Web 3.0 presence, have certain common denominators, like have a user agreement, have terms and conditions, have privacy policies, have disclaimers, so that you can disclaim your liability for third-party data. And of course, on cybersecurity, the law wants you to have and follow minimum parameters of ISO 27001. Now, a lot of CAs will believe, I'm not ISO 27001, so do I have to be certified? My answer is a crystal clear no. You don't require to be certified under ISO 27001. The law only says comply with its parameters. So if you are complying with the parameters, you are complying with reasonable security practices and procedures, and therefore you are safe. Acha, once you comply with the law, what happens? You know, remember in Mahabharata, in the Gita discourse, Lord Krishna, when he gives a central message to Arjun, what is the crux of the central message? The crux is, hey Arjun, come to my Sharan and I will protect you. That's what he says. The IT Act gives you the exact same message. He says, come inside my ambit, comply with my parameters, and I will guarantee you, you will not go to jail. You can't be forced to pay 1 rupee damages by way of compensation. I'll actively encourage every stakeholder who's using the digital format to come under the exemption from legal liability under Section 79 of the IT Act, so that if you're doing compliances, you are in a good space. Otherwise, we have to learn from what Twitter experience has shown us. Twitter said, I'm above the law. IT rules came in. They asked all service providers to comply in 90 days. Twitter said, I will not comply. Come 91st day, and 4 different FIRs were filed against Twitter. Even today, Twitter is fighting them as an accused without having the benefit of the statutory exemption from legal liability. So I think, let's realize it. My work in this space tells me that the Indian IT Act is like a whirlpool. Don't mess up with it. Don't experiment with it. Because once you get sucked into this whirlpool, it's going to be many, many years before you come out. Today's 2023. I'm doing a cybercrime matter that originated in 2002, and it's still continuing on stage 1. That's if 21 years a cybercrime matter is going on, you can just imagine the kind of exposure or harassment you could face in case if you get sucked into an IT litigation.
वो डायलॉग याद आता है, अभी तक तो लॉ ही नहीं आया, तो लॉ जब आएगा तारीख पे तारीख आएगा, तब पवन जी का फीस भी बढ़ेगा एक एक तारीख में. बट हम एक एनोलॉजी देते हैं. My wife has bought some gold, but we are fighting with the bank for a locker for last 3 years. We are not getting lockers. When I heard yesterday Ashish Singhal, Dilip Chinoy, Sunil Agarwal are asking for a global regulation, it is like asking for a bank locker to a bank. Until unless you deposit 3 lakhs of rupees, you will not get a locker. So what is the alternative till the date you are not getting bank locker for keeping your gold? You buy a Godrej Almirah, and sit it in the locker room, in a local room, means local law. In your house only put a Godrej Almirah of 50,000 rupees in spite of 3 lakh rupees, and keep your gold in a small quantity. That means till the regulation comes, keep your crypto in a small quantity. Till get it hacked, you get it finished. So my question is that next to Pritam, when he's doing the smart contract audit, many false positive comes out when the source code audit comes in. Because business and actual technicalities, you need to bridge the gap between business and the technical. How, as an auditor, smart contract auditor, how is bridging the gap about elimination of lots of false positive from the system to make it a proper remediation case study?
Okay, so I'm just giving one data. Last year, in 2022, like in Web3, or we can say in blockchain, around $14 billion of hacks happened. 14 billion, $14 billion of hacks happened. And in and last year it was around $4 billion. And like every day or every month, these hacks are increasing, right? So why these hacks are increasing? Like why in Web3 there is so many scams and everything is going. Like as Sir said, like in Web 2 there is so many data breaches happening daily, right? But in Web 2 is all about data, right? Data is the money, right? But in Web 3 the code is the money. Like why as a hacker, why I should attack a hospital in India now these hackers are doing, and then they will mail them this, you have to pay me cryptocurrencies and else I will not give you data, or else I will, do with your some infra, right? In Web3, the code is the money. As a hacker, I can directly hack the smart contracts. And in the smart contracts, the money is involved, like the digital assets are there, the Bitcoin, any stable coins or any your tokens that you're building, or maybe your NFT, your digital assets are there, right? So that's why these hackers are moving from Web 2 to Web 3. Web 3 is a very interesting place for them. They can just directly read the contract, right? So as we discussed just 5 minutes back, contract is just a piece of code, right? And in Web 3, in blockchain, the code is open source, right? As a hacker or anyone can read the contract of your company, like how your business is working, okay? And the interesting use case of blockchain is the financial technology, right? In the finance, so many, fintech, DeFi products are building on, right? As a CA, as a auditors, they having more expertise, like how we can build a more, a financial product in a more regulatory environment. And that's how these regulators we are actually working with some, CAs to, help our clients how we can, build this NFT product or DeFi product in a more regulatory or, more compliance way. And coming to the third question, like how we are making sure there is no, false positive in the systems and everything. The first is, again, coming back to this, how the chartered accountant thing. As a CA, like you having the expertise of reading the contracts, how your contracts are working. But in the Web3, you don't have the expertise of reading the smart contracts, the technology, the code is written, right? And here the AI, the ChatGPT is helping, like many CAs, just put the code, it will give you the nice description, like how your code is working. What's the, this NFT transactions going, how the DeFi products is working on, right? Now, this way the CA can learn like how the developer written the smart contracts, and that's what is helping. And how we're making sure, these clients are not forcing us to, just publish the fake reports, right? As an auditing company, we are publishing like around 10, 15 public reports of your DeFi, NFT, or, any product that you're building. As an auditing company, we having the responsibility to, not go with their words. Like many clients are asking us to, just make this bug or vulnerability, this bug is fine, right? But as an auditing company, we are making sure we are not publishing the reports. We are making sure all the reports are public, and that's how we are bringing the more transparency. Okay. Now coming to what kind of hacks are happening in the Web3, right? The first is the technical hacks. It can be any kind of technical hacks. Still, if I'm going to the numbers for the last year, the most hacks and scams are around the rug pulls, around the social engineering, right? So here there is a need of education, like how as a user I should protect my private keys, what's the best ways of using the MetaMask, what's the best way of using the cold wallet, the hard wallets. In this way, we can safeguard our assets in a more secure way.
Pankit, we are trying to wrapping out this round. I have a common question to Rohit, Pankit, and lastly Pritam. How does a Web3 hack happen in a common language? Everyone, it might be in a technical language, everything goes above your head in the morning, in Wednesday morning. I try to get it a more lucid language, as a chartered accountant language or a debit credit language, that how a simple term can you explain whether I can understand whether I have been already raped or not? Is there any way in Web3? Because it's a digital identity. I may not be raped in a physical world, but my digital avatar can also already got raped. But whether I can get a feel of skin or a smell, yesterday Mr. Khanna was telling the future of metaverse is getting smell. Somebody was talking about Steve Wozniak of Apple. 2008-2014 video, that the ultimate goal of Web3 or a metaverse is to get you the smell and something. When you go to a cinema, you get when you wear a air glass or something, you need to get the feel of a human being also. Don't you think you are having two wives in a metaverse world? More than two wives? More and more, you cannot count number of wives in metaverse. Because if somebody hacked your wife, means that avatar he can create 100 wives for you. So very difficult world coming. एक को तो संभाल नहीं पाओगे तो हजारों को कैसे संभालोगे? So the last, with this annotation, we try to understand what is in a common man language, what is a Web3 hack in a common man language.
Yeah, so let me first answer, how will you come to know? So there are attacks where you are supposed to know and there are attacks where you are not supposed to know. If you were to lose money, tokens, money, if you have a digital NFT painting that you would have bought, or whatever, if it is stolen, you will come to know. Because at the end, you're losing an asset. If you're losing data, and unless that data is obviously abused in some shape and form, like what just Jaijit mentioned in terms of a digital identity getting created and that gets abused, and then now we come to know it's fine. But more often than not, a privacy violation, a data violation, you're not supposed to come to know, because the idea is to use the data for nefarious purposes without you coming to know, or coming to know after a much, much longer time. On a lighter note, on whether it is smell or touch, if you are looking for a smell of a rose and if it's of sewage, then obviously you're supposed to come to know, but otherwise you're not supposed to come to know. That's a thing with security all across. So we work with over 130 companies today, and I would say that 60% of the attacks that we manage to detect or we work to find out are either done by insiders or people masquerading as insiders, where data theft has been identified after months, quarters, and years, right? So it was ideally to be stayed silent. I mean, that's the nature of the beast. In terms of where I see the biggest problem from a security perspective, on a second take on it, my belief is that the biggest malware, as I say, is the human malware. Unfortunately, we as humans tend to do stuff that we are not supposed to do. And I use this acronym called as CHAI. And I'm an Ahmedabad kid. I was just telling Purushottam ji. And there is this nice philosophy in Ahmedabad, or a nice way of life in Ahmedabad, that typically after 9 o'clock in the night, you'll go to the neighborhood kitli, right? You know, because the days are hot, so after 9 o'clock, you will hang around at a choraha as a kitli, and you will have a cup of tea at 9:30 in the night, and all of these guys are hanging around. And you will hear the most amazing gossip, from politics to business to companies. And if you are a sharp ear, you will know exactly what's happening in and around you. Same thing today, if you go to a neighborhood chai stall in an office complex, you will get to hear the gossip of the company and who's getting promoted, what they're acquiring, what the numbers look like, and so on and so forth. The new CHAI in the Web3 or a Web2 world stands for these 4 acronyms. C is for curiosity, H is for hubris, A is for apathy, and I is for ignorance. Right? So curiosity killed the cat. You get an email saying that you won a lottery, you never applied for one. How the hell did you win a lottery? You will still go and click that link because that's human nature. Right? Same thing with hubris. I know it all. I'm the smartest. Nothing will happen to me. Apathy, I don't care. And last is ignorance, obviously. So this new CHAI in the Web3 world is the biggest thing that we have to worry about. So whatever technology that you may implement, whatever processes you will implement, if there is a weak link on people on this CHAI, so remember, next time you have a cup of chai, remember that this is something that you have to worry about if you want to stay secure in Web3, Web2, Web1, Web4, Web5, whatever that will come your way.
Just adding on that, just as sir asked, what's the basic kind of hacks are going into Web3, right? So as Pankit sir clearly mentioned, like maybe you're getting a email with the link, just click on it, right? And that was happening into Web2, right? In Web3, what's happening? You're getting a link from the Coinbase, your account is going to be stopped, or like MetaMask is sending you the mail. But whenever you're clicking on the mail info, you will see this a random mail ID, they are trying to scam you. Then you will click on that mail, and they will, you are just allowing that website to get you the access of your MetaMask wallet. So MetaMask is a, you can say the wallet. Wallet is the first thing in the blockchain that is giving you access to the Web3 or blockchain, where you're keeping all the assets. Now you are giving the access of your all the assets by clicking on that link to the hacker, and they are just taking away of your all the money. Last week only, one of my friend, he just raised around 250K from the Kyber Ventures, around 3 crore. And just after he got the money, in next 5 minutes, the money was gone. You can see it. Because in Web3, everyone is trying to make the money. And that Kyber venture, invested in them, but somehow the hacker got to know Kyber invested on those guys. They made a fake profile on Telegram and they just pinged them. We just invested on you guys. Can you just connect your MetaMask wallet to this website? We want to track your wallet, right? How that wallet is going. And that guy was very new into Web3, but he's a fintech guy, good idea what to build in DeFi. He just connected the 3 crore rupees just gone in 5 minutes, right? Same happened with my one friend in Dubai, around 6 crore. He just raised from one venture fund, and the same thing happened. The basic hacks that are going into Web3, as Sir said clearly, is the chai factor. Like you will get some links by social engineering. You will get the mail, anything you will connect the MetaMask, right? So just try to avoid the connecting the MetaMask to the random websites. That will help you in securing your assets.
Well said. I just wonder that when the digital avatars came, when I entered into the cybersecurity domain in 2014, now 9 years, somebody told me one day we will see cyber murder or cyber death. That means somebody will hack through a remote operation and kill the patient. I am coming to a more optimistic, it is a pessimistic news. I am assumed to be a father again through a digital avatar at the age of 80. Not physically, through avatar. I wanted to be father again at the age of 80. The birth of a, is it possible? Can you give a birth in Web3 through an avatar? Spill the beans. Because Gen Z and Z Alpha are declined to marriage now. They are absolutely not in a category to go on marrying. They are in the mood to on a digital avatar. So I am going another step ahead. Can you give a birth in Web3? And at the age of 80. And I will be still live with a digital avatar to see that day. This is my ending note. Be careful about making your identity an avatar in Web3. Any questions? Raise your hand. Just, can you pass on the mics? Ritik, can you pass on the mics? Organizer, can you pass on the mics?
Hi everyone. First, thanks for this extremely insightful conversation. To Mr. Preetham and Mr. Pankit, you had mentioned about chai and how normally these vulnerabilities are exploited through human error. Maybe you click a phishing link, you go to the wrong website, you have an insecure password, you don't do your research beforehand. But in Web3, at least to the best of my knowledge, even though the majority of incidents might be through this way, if we look at the total funds lost, it's through hacks at like the protocol level or when something gets extremely like large. While we've touched upon like what we can do as individuals, as developers who are making these specifically like open source projects, what can we do to help protect ourselves better? Is there, because you guys have years of experience in this space, is there some SOPs or some just basic guidelines you can give for people developing these products that you must keep in mind to keep safe? The same way, like you said, for people, like in individuals, don't open any link, don't do X, Y, Z. What can you say for developers the same way?
Sure. So like I just mentioned, what kind of major hacks are happening in the Web3? The first is the rug pulls or the social engineering, right? That's the basic hack that I mentioned. But like we are having one hacker board, like where we are tracking the daily hacks, like what kind of money is lost, what kind of hack has happened, on what kind of protocol. Is it DeFi, is it NFT, is it a rug pull, is it a re-entrancy attack?
Yes, we have to close the session because of the former president of India, Ramnath Kovind, is coming at 12:45. So we will take the informal session. And my request, Vikas Jain, to propose heartiest vote of thanks.
We are here. You can take a question offline because of past president. Can you just excuse for one question?
We can take offline.
So we'll take the answer immediately after this. Sorry for the inconvenience. The only reason being, past President of India, Ramnath Kovindji is just joining and he'll be there sharp at 12. So because of the protocols and the securities and all these reasons, we are helpless with this. Otherwise, we would have extended this maybe for half an hour also, no problem. But my heartfelt gratitude and thanks to all the panelists and led by our moderator, Jayjit ji. It has been a wonderful deliberation, and Pawan Duggal sir, we know since years. I say he would be one of the pioneers on the cyber security, and he has been coming to Ahmedabad also many a times. And my special thanks to all the panelists for this wonderful deliberation, the questions which have been so relevant. And it is not only necessary while dealing with this IT and all, but we need to think of all this in every sphere or every walk of our life, especially the reason being IoT and all these things. As sir said, in the bedroom also these things are there. And whenever you are there in some business meetings or some professional meetings, the devices are always there with you somewhere nearby. So we need to be very vigilant and careful. We need to know everything. Thanks a lot for the patient hearing. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much.
A very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Tech Fusion track in the session 2 post-lunch. I hope you guys had a delicious lunch today. Generally, post-lunch sessions are considered to be a bit sleepy. We have wonderful panelists and a good moderator to make sure that you actually not only understand the topic but enjoy at the same time. The topic for the session is NFT and smart contracts. NFT, non-fungible tokens. This came into existence specifically in 2022. The Ministry, the Finance Act 2022 defined, for the first time it defined what NFT is. And it was covered in section 247A in virtual digital assets, that NFT is going to be something that is called and covered as in virtual digital assets, though government has restricted the definitions that I'll give away to the speakers and the moderator to deal with. At the same time, I remember there are few things that I remember about NFT. One is Amitabh Bachchan. He sold his NFT and it was 7.18 crores deal, and later he had to pay TDS that was 18% on the same as fine. So there are multiple things when it comes to this world of NFT. Now bringing you to the different world of NFT, I can tell you the most hyped NFT that I've ever heard was CryptoPunks. There were NFTs, those are sold in millions. And people still think about that, is there really any use case of this NFTs? Are this going to work in the long run? People on and off the industry have the talks about the NFT, how long the market is going to survive. We have people from the industry to tell you how there are use cases of NFT and how it is dealt with. To begin with, I'd like to ask few people to join on the dais. CA Piyush Chandak, who is RCM, WIRC. I welcome you, sir. CA Rajendra Kumar P. He is a Central Council member. We heartily welcome him. He is coming from the southern region of India. Mr. Anshul Rustagi. Let me introduce who Mr. Anshul Rustagi is. Mr. Anshul Rustagi. He's not here? Yeah, Rustagi? Rustagi, okay. Mr. Anshul Rustagi is founder of Totality Corporation, developing Xeonverse, fully grown gaming platform. When it comes to metaverse, when it comes to gaming industry and NFT, gaming platform is something that has created a good existence in the market. He is early mover in the gaming industry. He came to the blockchain industry in 2011, developing a Xeonverse, decentralized metaverse gaming system, an active investor in NFTs and DeFi. He sees further future potential. He enjoys mental stimulation through puzzle solving and connecting with like-minded individuals. I welcome Mr. Anshul Rustagi on the dais. Rustagi on the dais. Yes, sir. He's already there. I request the CCMs and RCMs to felicitate him. Call everyone? Okay. Next, I call upon Mr. Ravikant Agrawal, Director Growth of Polygon Laboratories. Mainly, I know it as MadTech India. Ravikant Agrawal is Director of Growth Polygon. He primarily looks after Web3 mobile strategies, digital identity, merchant and acquisitions, ecosystem growth. In the past, he was in management and strategy. He is consultant to global people around the world at the same for the emerging technologies. Next, I call upon Lisa Ray. Lisa Ray is cross-cultural pioneer, creative and award-winning actor, accomplished author, writer and philanthropist, art collector, international keynote speaker and co-founder of the Upside Space. In parallel to her career in creative arts, she has nurtured contemporary artistic expression in India and across India, roles of both patron and enthusiast. She has cultivated relationship with virtual arts, visual arts in 3 decades of span. Shortly after relocating to UAE, she began engaging in philosophy underpinning Web3. We heartily welcome her to the dais. Now I call upon CA Vikram Pandya, who is going to be the moderator for this session. He is Director for FinTech, SP Jain School of Global Management, where he is designated Asia's first interactive classroom leading FinTech, featuring blockchain, API, AI, ML, and Internet of Thoughts. We welcome you here, sir. Now, I would like our CCMs and RCMs to felicitate our moderator and the respective speakers. I request our CCMs and RCMs to felicitate CA Vikram Pandya, who is the moderator for the session. We heartily welcome our moderator today for the session of NFT and smart contract, CA Vikram Pandya. It's good to see somebody from this fraternity standing here on the dais. Next, I call Miss Lisa Ray for the felicitation. She has relocated to UAE. Big round of applause for her. Next, I call Mr. Ravikant Agrawal from Polygon Labs as the session speaker for the day.
Okay.
Give the tray back. He needs it back, yeah. And the final call for Mr. Anshul Rustagi. We welcome him with whole hearts. Big round of applause for him. These are the people who have eminently marked their presence in the industry of blockchains, NFTs, new startups, smart contracts. They have created a benchmark in history which is going to be known for years and times to come. Now I would like to invite our Central Council member, CA Rajendra Kumar P, for the welcome speech.
Esteemed CA Vikram Pandya ji, esteemed Miss Lisa Ray, esteemed Piyush Chandak ji, Anshul Rustagi ji, Ravikant Agrawal ji, and a good audience that is present here. I must say it's a good audience because only a few chairs are empty. In the last about 1.5 days or so, we have been exposed to many new things, many new opportunities, new faces, and it is as if the world has completely changed. Yes, change is the order. In fact, when I was a chartered accountant, People used to read income tax a lot more. Auditing used to be one of the very main areas where we used to carry a lot of colorful pencils in our pockets to tick. And when I qualified, I wanted to do something different. And that's when I entered the indirect taxes, because there was absolutely nil, no one was there. And I don't know, people tell today you're the czar of indirect taxes, but that may not be true. But when I see today NFT and smart contracts, it's got everything to do about currencies, cryptocurrencies, and whatnot. The entire panel is seated here before you. I heartily welcome them and thank them for coming to the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, because majority of them are chartered accountants. One of them is from the world of films and now connected with so many other activities. Madam, this institute is a creation of the Government of India. It's a statutory body. So आप ऐसे समझो जैसे आप भारत सरकार में बैठी हैं. Seated in audience of Government of India. And esteemed friends, each and every one of you who have come here to this program, who have been here since yesterday, who have come today also and seated post-lunch, hearty welcome to you, and please sit back, relax and enjoy this session. Thank you very much.
Before giving it up to our moderator for the day, there are few questions that I have in my mind. Like, what are the different types of NFT in the market? What are the different platforms where it is bought and sold? How do we create a NFT? Can chartered accountants play some role in creating NFT? Can we also audit smart contracts? There are a few answers that I already know, but I can still place forward few things. How do we resolve disputes if there is some kind of dispute in the NFT market? How about a normal CA writing a smart contract? Is it possible for a CA to write a smart contract? How do I save myself from the fraud and scams that is going around in the market? Do you really think it's going to enter every industry, from the music to Bollywood to artistry and everything, to the chartered accountancy firm to our digital signatures? Can an NFT be created for every single thing that we know? I have some questions like, what are the risks associated with the NFT? What are the tax implications if I think of? Is it as good as virtual digital assets or something else? That is how I give away to our moderator for the day to take over and take the lead with the speakers for the day. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's start with today's session, and as we have discussed, right, we are going to cover multiple different topics. We will start with the basic introduction of who we are. We have already taken that, but each and every panel member will get around 5 minutes to discuss about what they are doing in the world of NFT to begin with. And by setting that context, we can understand more about what the world of NFT looks like. So I will first start with you to describe what you are doing in the world of NFT. And
Okay. Hi, everybody. We need to wake up a little bit after lunch. I know what it's like. I was thinking I would put on a costume and come out, but you know, somebody beat me to it. I saw somebody wandering in a costume. So this is day 2 of Startup Sphere, and it's really important. As we know, any culture, any economy, any country that has a robust startup ecosystem can call itself very future-facing. And this is something we have to remind ourselves of. Now, India, as we know, is one of the most entrepreneurial countries or nations on the planet. And we must always keep that idea that we have to constantly make sure that it's a robust entrepreneurship and startup ecosystem. So I'm very happy to be here. This is, to be honest, my maiden venture in becoming a co-founder. I have co-founded what we like to call a curated digital art platform. It is called the Upside Space, not upside down, not There's been lots of different versions of it, but it's called the upside space because there's a saying that when you look at things in a positive way, there's only an upside. And we like to believe that marrying artistic practices along with disruptive emerging tech, there's only an upside involved for everyone. So I've always been passionate about arts, and when I'm talking about traditional arts in India, I bought my very first painting with my modeling paycheck, and that was when I was about 16 or 17. So I have been collecting art for a long time, and I've been educating myself about art as I go along. And so I understand also the stresses that there are for both artists and collectors within this ecosystem. Now, let's make one thing very clear. Art is an asset to contend with. We don't talk about this enough. Art is a viable asset, which should be a part of everyone's portfolio, number one. That also counteracts, of course, inflation, everything like that. Number two, art is soft power. But what ends up happening is that there's so many obstacles to artists from India, from Bangladesh, from Sri Lanka, from Vietnam, that they don't get a chance to participate in this new ecosystem that is happening. So NFTs, yes, I'm sure we're going to discuss what NFTs are. I'm not going to get it into in detail. I am not a tech expert. I'm the first person to stand here and say, I am not a tech expert, but I know philosophically, ideologically, and in practice how powerful this technology is and what we can do with it. And I think the point is to understand, wrestle, and harness this incredible opportunity that we have and apply it to many different industries. I'm applying it to art, and then there's some other industries around that we are also at the upside space also engaging with. But the point is NFTs are not going anywhere. They're going to be integrated into our lives. And let me explain 2 or 3 things that behind my thinking of why I took the leap to become co-founder of this. Number one, we like to think that art and technology are opposite sides of the room. They don't talk to each other, right? Right? Wrong. Absolutely wrong. Because first of all, the spirit of art is about looking forward. It's looking into the future. It's questioning the status quo. It's making you look at the world differently. It's reflecting the world to you. And guess what? Technology does the same. Technology cannot stagnate. Innovation cannot stagnate. You have to look ahead. And so what we did, myself and my team, is we drew 2 lines. The evolution of art, the evolution of technology. They are cousins. They are related, and they continue in parallel until sometimes they intersect. And you know what happens at that intersection point? A revolution that changes the world. That is what we're seeing right now. We're sitting on the cusp of a serious revolution. But let me give you an example. If we go back in history in Western art, something as simple as taking paint and putting it into tubes. Released artists from their studio, they went outside, they were able to actually paint from sight, and you know what happened? The Impressionist movement. So today, you go to a museum, you'll see a Monet, a Manet, or even a Picasso. And these are worth hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, they're precious. You can't even buy them if you want to. But you know what happened when these works were first released? You know what the public said? They said, this is not art. I refuse to accept this as art. Why? Because it was unfamiliar. Because it was new territory. And that, though, is the secret of standing on the edge of a revolution. The smart people, the visionaries, I'm not putting myself in that category, but I'm speaking to very smart people in this room, will be able to cut through the noise and say, I see where this is going. This has potential. And that's what we're doing at the Upside Space, while creating also an extra income for artists from our region, making sure they're not left behind, making sure they're part of the global art conversation. And then we are buying ourselves a seat at the table in the global art conversation as Indian creators and as Indian artists. That's powerful, and that is part of our philosophy of what we're doing behind the Upside space.
Hi everyone, this is Ravi Agrawal. I am part of the growth team at Polygon. So, just adding to some more colors to what Lisa was saying. So at Polygon, we certainly believe that, when it comes to NFT and the innovations that are being brought with the help of NFTs, I think it started with considering the artwork as an NFT. But I think it has changed a lot of dimensions over a period of time. A lot of innovation has happened. So it is moving from the artistic work to more collectibles, where it could be a music song, it could be a picture of your favorite actor or actresses, and then from there on to moving towards the brand side of it. So I'm sure many of you must have heard about the recent one where Nike has published something called as shoes as an NFT, and those NFT has been added with a utility where this NFTs of shoes can be taken into a metaverse where you can start interacting with it. So I think those kind of experiences, along with more real world use cases where it can be taken up in a form of ownership, documentation, and so on. So very exciting era, and very happy to see that a lot of innovations coming out in there. At Polygon, just as a brief introduction, I look after the Web3 mobile strategy and AI side of it, and looking forward to see how the innovations spur up and give us a new dimensions of looking towards this technology.
Great. Hi everyone, my name is Anshul. I'm the founder of Totality. At Totality, we are creating a metaverse called Zionverse, which is completely based on Indian mythology. We have already done 3 NFT sales in India of Lakshmi NFT, Vishwas NFT, and we have already sold around 8 crore rupees of NFTs, all in India itself. Our idea has really been, I come from background of mobile gaming. Prior to that, I was a hedge fund manager. So from finance, I then did law, then moved into gaming as a tech startup, to then coming into the NFT and metaverse space. And I think the exciting part for me about creating an ecosystem with metaverse and NFTs is that this is really the first time that you can actually, in a confident manner, really monetize anything that is unique to you, right? So whether that's art as an IP, whether that's Nike doing collectibles, whether that's your actual personal data, right? Because a lot of us have problem that, hey, Facebook and Google are actually monetizing our data. And I think our view is that the problem isn't that they are monetizing our data. The problem is, what do I get when they monetize my data, right? So I think the issue, and more going forward, whether that's research, whether that's genomics, where a lot of the data would be used sometimes for making more profits by pharmacy firms, sometimes to actually cure cancer and other diseases, I think we want to get more control, right? There has been an evolution where we had to go very centralized in terms of institutions because we had a division of labor. And as we are able to solve a lot of these problems, we are now wanting to be more decentralized because we want to be more in control of every aspect of our lives, right? And as more of our lives are coming on digitally, and as we get into more of AI doing the grunt work, right? And I see a lot of generative AI applications coming to the NFT, particularly on the art side of it. Interestingly, I think earlier there was mention of some successful NFT projects like CryptoPunk. All of the most popular NFT projects have actually been done through a particular art style, right? So it has been a programmatic way of creating that art rather than having a unique style, because these people were actually trying to create an entire ecosystem. And with generative AI, where you can actually put in your own unique style in an easy manner, I think that's going to be another propulsion into what we are going to do with NFTs and the metaverse. I think for me, the biggest issue that we are facing with respect to metaverse and NFT is that whether we like it or not, a lot of focus in terms of adoption move towards making financial gains, right? Which naturally happens in a lot of markets. So a lot of people jumped into crypto, buying Bitcoins, buying NFTs, moving into the metaverse for quick financial gains. The government stepped in. In India, that ecosystem has been given a big shake after the regulatory rules. And now we are really back to track for what the long-term adoption vision is as to how NFTs and metaverse are going to play a part in our daily lives. Thank you.
So thanks everyone for giving perspective, and we will start with Ravikant, you. And my first question to you is on, can you explain and demystify what kind of differences between NFT and normal crypto? People have this doubts that, okay, crypto and NFTs are one and the same, and there are different types of NFTs as well, right? So if you can throw some light on that, that would be great for the audience.
Sure. So I think when we are talking NFTs, they are primarily a token. It's just the underlying technology to create NFT, and the other side of the cryptos is just the specification difference, right? So primarily many in the rooms, I believe, would be familiar with the term fungible and non-fungible, right? So I think that is where it starts. So fungible tokens are the ones which commonly are called as crypto coins or crypto tokens. At the same time, when we move to non-fungible tokens, they are called as NFTs in short. And there are technical specifications that are that are the underlying principles on which these tokens are created that differentiate the both. So just a simple example in order to differentiate what is fungible and what is non-fungible, right? So let's say your ticket to enter into this event is actually a non-fungible ticket, right? That belongs to one individual, which is unique in nature. Compared to, let's say, 1 rupee coin, right? That's like a fungible token. Your 1 rupee coin is very similar to my 1 rupee coin. If we exchange, doesn't matter, it still represents the same value. So that's basically fungible and non-fungible token.
Great analogy, and then let's take one more example, right? So when we talk about the certificates, when we are giving certain documentary proof, then it becomes very clear that this is a unique thing that we want to clarify and certify that this is something which belongs to someone. And you can also have on top of that NFTs which are transferable versus non-transferable as well. And there are different types of NFT, including some NFTs which can represent rights in asset. It can be even fractionalization that you are doing, as we know. And based on that, you have differentiation between your crypto and non-crypto versus token which are fungible and non-fungible. Coming back to Anshul. Now the next question to you, Anshul, is that what do you believe in the gaming world, right? NFT really adds more value about, and what kind of NFTs that you are currently dealing with?
Okay, so see, in the gaming world, there are, India is maybe exposed to two sorts of gaming in a major way. One is real money gaming, right? So there is a large application in real money gaming, and the other is gaming which is already larger than the movie, music, business combined, is where you're actually really paying for more individualism, right? So if I'm playing a PUBG game, I want to actually buy costumes, and the reason I'm buying costume is I'm already a part of PUBG, I'm playing that quite regularly, and I want to buy something which is unique to me so that others can also see me and I can attain some sort of social status, right? So NFTs has part in both. What is the part in real money gaming? So obviously, as Ravikant was saying, there's a lot of fungibility in terms of money. So you can obviously make money, but what is the issue that arises in terms of real money, right? Now, when you are, let's say, playing poker or rummy, there is an element of chance, right? An issue like a lot of people will have is the company which is actually creating this, are they being truthful to me, right? Are they actually really giving me the card which is truly random, or do they know what cards I have and they're just making their players win? Now, when we move on to a blockchain system, you can actually code this and everyone can actually see what was the random seed that was actually generated, and it is verifiable as being random, right? So every game can have its own NFT, which is just purely a data which is unique to that particular game and instance for verifiability of randomness, which is very important for something which is actually doing a lot of monetary transactions. Secondly, in gaming, as Ravikant again mentioned about collectibles, this is where the natural step came for NFTs in gaming, right? If in PUBG I want to actually own a costume, and this is nothing new, whether it's PUBG, whether it's Call of Duty, people are actually buying skins, whether that's for yourself as an avatar, whether that's for your weapons, and actually trading them. Now, this ecosystem is actually working in a gray market and is actually not supported by the publishers themselves in almost all the cases. The reason being that the publishers make money only when they sell new skins. They are not able to make any commission because they haven't yet enabled it from retrading of those collectibles, right? So it's almost like saying, if you think about property market, the government just doesn't sell the land in one go, right? Every time there is a trading of the land, they make stamp duty on that particular thing all the time. So in the same way, collectibles are already becoming NFTs, and if the major source of revenue, which is 80% of the non-real money gaming market, actually makes money from collectibles, all of that will move into NFTs. And the last point I will say here is, see, there are some games where ownership is an integral part, like Monopoly, right? So Monopoly, I hope that a lot of us have played it or know about the game. Ownership of the land I have in Monopoly is a very critical part. And wherever there is a part of ownership, actually NFTs come and play a very important part, because you can transfer that ownership more easily and in a more verifiable manner. So what we are going to see is games which are primarily just a mode of entertainment, and Robinhood, I'm taking that as another set of an example. Robinhood was a gamified finance app, right? We are going to see more games coming into this vertical where they are going to give us an element of gaming, but where I can actually trade real assets, right? So a Monopoly game of trading property, where I can trade fractions of real life property as NFTs, will definitely become a reality soon.
Great example. And my question to you will be that, of course, we have just heard about how collectibles are now getting more and more popular in form of NFTs. And it is said that art and NFTs are made for each other in a way. And when you look at, for your business, right, the way you are looking at NFTs and the way you use NFTs in managing the end-to-end transfer, managing the transfer of royalty, can you throw some light on that?
Yes, of course. So I think, first of all, one has to assess when you're facing the future of where you're coming from. And we know that NFTs have incredible applications, and I'm really enjoying listening to Anshul's, perspective on collectibles, on gaming and things like that. And, there's a sort of a light gaming that's even coming into dealing with art NFTs as well. You can integrate a lot of different kind of modalities and aspects, when you're dealing with NFTs or trading digital assets, even in the form of art. Now, the thing is, what I want to do is I want to set some context to the art world. Like, we are very specific. We're looking at a system that has actually been continuous for many, many decades, if not hundreds of years. And I'm talking about the exchange of art, the buying and the selling of art, that has not been upgraded in many years. So perhaps a lot of you are not familiar that the traditional art world is very gated. It's what we term a gallery system. The gallerist is the mediator. The gallerist controls the supply of the art, access to the artists. Oftentimes, I've heard stories where the artist is not even aware that his piece of art has sold and for how much. So it's very obscure, right? It's not a transparent system. And it has been built on gatekeeping, number one, and elitism. I mean, I'm sure that there's a lot of people in this room who might even have an interest in art, but feels intimidated to enter a art gallery, right? Would I be correct in saying that? Or it won't be the first thing that you think about. Oh, Saturday, what should I do with my Saturday? Let me go to an art gallery. And that's very sad, because if we look at India specifically, we have such an incredible dynamic amount of talent, young talent, what we call independent artists who are not represented by galleries, because what ends up happening in the art system as it is today, as a young artist, if you don't get gallery representation, your career is basically dead in the water. So now, knowing what we know about the traditional art system, you bring then in NFTs, which again stand for transparency, which bring a lot of the power back to the artist through smart contracts, right? That are unique, identifiable, that are uneditable, that also address fraudulence within the art ecosystem, because we know that that's often an issue. And then we marry these two worlds, and we understand that we have to be very thoughtful about how we apply NFTs when it comes to fine arts. Now, there's a lot of people who are also talking about fractionalized ownership, which is possible. If you look at, say, a Picasso, and then you offer little pieces of that, it's been proven historically that these kinds of masterworks inevitably rise in value. They are a great asset to add to anybody's portfolio. But who wants also the headache of shipping works, storing works, keeping them in prime condition? It's a huge also responsibility and burden to care for your art. Therefore, what we thought about when it comes to NFTs, and it's not that we're not unique in this at all, but NFTs address all these stress points in the gallery system. Because finally, there is a minimal amount of gatekeeping. If you are a talented artist, if you are aggressive, if you want to market yourself, you can carve out a niche for yourself, and you can directly interact and actually cultivate collectors. So you can actually make a go of it in the digital NFT art ecosystem. You can make a living. And you know what? It doesn't need to also replace a studio practice either. You could also be creating physical work and supplementing that by accessing a global audience by using NFTs. How do you do that? Well, as an artist, either you learn these digital skills, you can make specific digital art, you can digitize your physical art, and then put that on a platform, or you can partner with us at the Upside Space. Because what we do, knowing that NFTs can be used as a powerful vehicle, specifically, let's take an example of an artist, a Gond artist from rural India, who may not have neither the language skills nor the tech skills to be able to participate in this new digital ecosystem. How do we address that? We've thought about that at the Upside Space. And so what we do is we, through curators, partner with artists, and we can transform their physical artwork into digital assets. And not just that, but we can help them with digital interventions, adding a little bit of animation, etc. So I think that the applications we're just barely scratching the surface right now. And I am speaking specifically with reference, of course, to art, which I'm very passionate about from many different points of view. But even as a political movement, it's so potent to be able to get our creative expression out there and create a global community. Now, this is also very much predicated on creating a community. Right? What are Web3 values? Being collaborative, being transparent, right? It's being decentralized. And this is a direct challenge to the pre-existing system before us. And this is, of course, what's creating the friction in the world today. I do think that there will be a time when we have to necessarily regulate in some ways, but we're not there yet. And I just wanted to add that, like the Upside Space, we're registered in Singapore, so we've actually had to jump through a lot of regulatory hoops in order to establish our platform. But I also think that today in the space, building credibility and trust and looking at a longer-term sustained growth is also essential. We need more platforms and more entrepreneurs in Web3 who are looking at the longer play and not the shorter play. So we don't do a lot of the sort of more NFT collectible drops, right? We're actually trying to create a marriage between the two worlds. But look, let me say that we're going through a bear market. So as a platform, we've been trying to innovate and think of other applications with NFTs, building out a B2B model, building out a subscription model, always keeping the Web3 philosophy and ideology at the heart of it, But this is dynamic, and we have to continuously evolve. Question what we just did yesterday so that we can do something better tomorrow. And that's what we're trying to do with the Upside space.
Thanks. My question to you, Ravikant, is people always wonder what role smart contracts play in world of NFT and whether they are legally enforceable or not. So can you throw some light on that?
Sure. So I think maybe again to give a very layman definition of what a smart contract is, right? So smart contract basically is like your digital rule book. So if we compare, let's say, NFT to be a very special toy, for example, that is very unique in certain aspect, a smart contract is a way where this defines certain rules of how you would be able to interact with your digital toy, right? So when can you sell it? For how much you can sell it? To whom you can sell it? I think all those are kind of a rules. And this is where smart contract comes in. This is very, very basic way of explaining smart contract. There are many more features on top of it. But basically what all rules are defined for a contract, they can all be coded. And this is where it becomes, I mean, technically it is not that smart, but I think the way it is functioning, which is auto-enforcing certain conditions. So once you reach to a point where the conditions have been met, it auto-enforces those conditions and auto-execute. That's where it adds a lot of value, where a human dependency has been removed. Now, take another very simple example. Let's say two friends who are betting. And in case if they have decided on, let's say, 5 conditions against which they are betting. For example, is it going to be raining tomorrow in Mumbai? Yeah. If that conditions, along with that, whether it is going to be raining 2 inch, whether it is going to be starting the rain at 6 a.m. and so on, all those conditions can be part of a contract. And if those conditions are met, the contract would auto-execute and it would send out the winner the amount that has been agreed. So that is the power of smart contract, which is, you know, enforced, and no human intervention can stop the execution of it. And that's where it becomes trustless. So you really are not trusting any particular individual to ensure that the bet has been successful and that mediator or a third party would be actually transferring you the fund. So that's the power of smart contract. Now, whether it is legally enforceable, I think that's a debatable question. The conditions why something is legally binding or legally enforceable. First, whether there is a chance of something that is getting tampered. So when it comes to smart contract, those code is once deployed onto a chain, it cannot be altered, right? So this is one way to look at it, that the terms, once it has been deployed on a chain, it is immutable. Second, it also have the signers who have actually signing the contract, agreeing to the terms and conditions, they are also included into the terms. All the transactions that have been executed with the help of this contract are also recorded onto an immutable ledger, right? So the primary principal things that would be required in order to prove something in the court are all there. But it's up to the jurisdiction. Certain jurisdictions do consider that all this proof would be valid, but it is certainly up to the jurisdiction.
Absolutely right. And just to add to what he mentioned, so let's assume that we create NFT of a house, right? And this is done already, as we know. So if you create NFT of a house and there is a smart contract which governs that, okay, this is how the transfer will happen, and these are the parameters and properties of the transfer that you can attach to that. But still, as per the regulation in that location and country, you are still supposed to go for stamp duty registration separately. Those are the things that you need to separately take care of. Smart contract does not legally replace whatever is required as per the legal requirement. It is just that it is a program which is embedding actionables which are otherwise executed manually, right? Think like that. And that is something which adds immense value to what we can do. So for example, CBDC that we know about in India, CBDC also is NFT. Effectively, it is NFT because you have a unique token value attached or unique value attached to each and every transaction that you do. Not only that, but also, let's assume that you are getting 200 rupee note or 100 rupee note. That note has a unique serial number, correct? And similar to that, even CBDC has that serial number. Now, when we are talking about this, in future, you can have programmable money which can allow you to have features attached to that. For example, today, GST, chartered accountants, you know that you need to pay GST. And GST is payable on accrual basis, which means that whether you receive amount or not, you are supposed to pay GST next month, right? Now think about this, if CBDC is having embedded smart contract where the moment you receive your money, automatically part of that money goes towards your GST, correct? Which means that you don't need to really lock your amount, working capital you can unlock, and because of that it becomes smart. You don't need to file for any return and it becomes very smart. That is one example of smart contract in the language that we understand, right? Coming to you, Anshul, when we talk about NFT in gaming specifically, right? We have seen so many different areas, specifically esports when we talk about, right? Esports, the value that NFT generates there, the value that you, as you mentioned, collectible generates there, right? You have huge potential of NFT in the world of esports as well. Number one question, what are your views on that? And second, when you look at the quasi-exchange that this becomes, right? You have NFTs which are traded, collectibles which are traded, and the government regulations which are there for every sales of NFT, etc., where you don't have physical assets. That is where, let's say, TDS comes into picture, your taxation comes into picture. So how easy or difficult it is to manage those compliances and look at the potential?
Okay, so two questions. So esports and sports in general, obviously, we already have two very large NFT marketplaces in India, which are looking at cricket, right, which is our largest sport. So obviously in sports, in general, NFT is very big because sports naturally, again, comes towards collectibles, whether that's fantasy sports as well. If I create a particular team, if I'm looking at a card of a particular player, as that player grows in value, if they do really well, then the cards and hence my NFT should become more valuable. If they don't do as well, then obviously the NFT and the card should start losing value. So it naturally fits there. I think even within esports, esports is also a nascent market in India. And because of, unfortunately banning of PUBG on and off, and I think they're making another attempt as BGMI, I think the second or third time, I've forgotten the number of counts now. I think such popular games are really necessary for the esports market to become really big. And as that becomes big, every esports player is a sports player, right? So naturally NFTs will have a lot of value in terms of collectibles, in terms of player data, in terms of that player cards to lend itself into those areas. I think the second part, which is legality, look, it's, I guess technology and legality have very little correlation.
So question was not more around the legality, it was more about compliance management, because you have this TDS and that payable, right? So not on the legality.
Okay, so I think I'll just connect with the earlier question about smart contracts. I have also done LLB from Delhi University Campus Law Center much later in my life. And see, the interesting part about law is there is a lot of logic and binary part to the law as to how it flows. And a lot of you are CAs, so you tackle laws on a daily basis. The difficulty in law is, I'll take the example of what Ravikant said, that, hey, if it rains and if it's 2 millimeter, then this is the bet, right? Now, in the smart contract, obviously, you can code it. You can say that if it rains, that's either yes or no. Was it 2 millimeter? That's also yes and no. Then I should obviously get the payoff, right? That will be the smart contract. And that sounds very easy. The difficulty comes, and that is where the legality comes, as to what was used to measure the 2 millimeter, right? Even though the smart contract cannot be tampered with, the source of truth, which is that data, can be tampered with, right? And the intention can also be tampered with, right? Like maybe the contract, even though there was consent, but like we know about consent, there is a huge, legalese around consent also. Was the person signing it given wrong data? Were they told about some other place? Were they said that, we are going to do it in Jaipur, Rajasthan, and Jaipur, Rajasthan, you referred into some other place of Jaipur, Rajasthan, so on and so forth, right? So whether that GST and TDS, the issue becomes, can government actually track it really well? The answer is, of course, they can, if they want to. Will it require a different adoption? Obviously, right? If we have, so I think, to me, the only use case of a CBDC is actually on-ramping onto, like you said, smart money, right? Otherwise, this digital rupee experiment, to me, is kind of pointless. I really don't get what is the point of having a digital rupee which the government is in control of, because at least I don't know if I can believe that autonomy for owning a digital rupee, when the government knows that you actually own it, they will say, no, we are not going to touch it like is in the case of cash, right? So I don't really see that as a use case. The only use case is if the government makes it mandatory that everyone buy digital rupee, and from the digital rupee you can buy whatever crypto you or NFT you want, then you have actually created a chain of, a record which is actually immutable now and cannot be, removed or erased by anyone. In fact, Silk Road 2.0, which some of you may know was an illegal website to sell whatever, the FBI actually caught the founder because they were using Bitcoin, right? So even though there is a large, a story narrated that crypto is used for a lot of illegal activity, I think only 0.5% of Bitcoin was found to be used for quote-unquote illegal activities, whereas 6% of dollar cash is used for illegal activities. And Bitcoin has a much higher chance for you to track it because you can't erase the records, and obviously with cash, you don't have that luxury.
No, right. In fact, government normally needs to look at the cost of compliance in a way that can be very, very difficult. And on the other hand, you need to look at innovation benefits, right? Now, when we talk about cost of compliance, we recently have heard about how even the credit card on that you have TCS, right? Tax collectible at source, right? Now, you understand that the cost of managing that compliance for banking industry, etc. is high. And same thing is true here, where you have gaming or anything which is NFT related. And the technology, you still at a recent, if you look at the recent trend, it is not that developed. In India, at least, you are looking at people are still trying to understand how it will be used, what are the use cases. So I think the cost of compliance and benefits of innovation you need to weigh, and based on that you need to decide which works better. And specifically when the size and volume is small, you can take that at least some bet that, okay, I'm going to go ahead with this, I will have some sort of compliance, but it will not be too much for people to stop innovating. And that is what we need to think overall. Coming back to you, one question that we have seen, right, people asking on the generative AI front. You have generative AI generating artwork, even artists are selling their voice or rights around what they are performing, and that becomes now video. So when we are talking about different new forms of art coming up, and given that the uniqueness of that art, earlier which was very unique, there was effort in that, versus how the art is getting created, the value of the effort that you put in that artwork is changing. So what are your views on that, and how do you think NFT plays a role in even making sure the identity, the way it was created, how it was created, the record of that makes more sense, right?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, and sort of the question of today when we're grappling also with AI on so many different levels. I've been actually reading a very interesting book that I want to recommend to everyone that gives a really interesting perspective on AI. It's called 12 Bytes, B-Y-T-E-S. And it's actually written by a novelist called Jeanette Winterson. And in my opinion, this is a thing, we need more collaboration between thinkers, novelists, creators, and also, tech and futurists. To be able to translate to each other through stories exactly where we are and the basis of like where we find ourselves right now historically. This has not just happened accidentally, right? We've been moving in this direction in so many ways. And I just also wanted to add that there's even a very interesting chapter in there drawing similarities between Buddhism and AI. About this idea of emptiness, and we don't even exist, and therefore you don't actually need a meat body, you need consciousness. So I really recommend, I want to recommend it also, it's a fantastic read. But yeah, to get into art, well, look, we all know that art is such a subjective kind of a notion, right? We have been asking this question for ages and ages, what is art anyways? And I'm certainly not here, and I'm not trying to present myself as the art mediator, art tastemaker. So it was a little bit challenging in the beginning, because at the same time, I think what we are seeing in the art NFT market is a growing delineation between collectibles, as Anshul's been talking about, collectible NFT, art, and fine art. And they're slowly becoming, like I said, a clear delineation between the two, which represents a maturation of the NFT market. It's inevitable. Look, it's been the Wild West. It's like any brand new technology. It's inevitable that it goes through this phase. Now, again, you go back to like, well, what is art? Here's how we kind of defined it for ourselves on the Upside space, because at the same time, when we're talking about Web3 values, which means less control, less gatekeeping, at the same time, we're a curated platform, because we do feel that because there's so much volume, there's such a volume of art and information, that you need an expert to handpick and present to people who are not so familiar with this world or who want an expert to present. I think that this is good. What do you think? That's what we do at the Upside space. So we said, number one, we want artists who have a strong practice. So here's something we have to understand. Art is not always about the end result. Art, there's such a thing as fine art and decorative art. Decorative art, you can go and, beautiful flowers, or, you can go any place and pick that up, and it looks beautiful, and it's legitimately art. But when we talk about fine art, what we're differentiating is it becomes an asset. And it also becomes, you're investing in that artist, you're betting on that artist. This is a form of gambling, because nothing is 100% as well. But you're gambling, or you're betting that this artist, his practice will continue to grow, his reputation will continue to grow, therefore the value of what he creates will grow. That's fine art. So we said, it's not just about dealing with, like, we have emerging artists, artists who are developing their reputation, we have established artists. But the thing that differentiates is they have a practice, means they get up every single day, and what do? They create art. Just like you go and, what do accountants do again? Audit. You audit every day, right? Every day of your life, and you love it. But it's about what do you do every single day. And that, for us, differentiates a strong artist. They have a practice. Now, when you are practicing, you have, again, a vision, a philosophy, a story that you're trying to share with the world, a perspective. That's what art is, okay? Now, we've seen artists such as even Hussein. What did Hussein do? He had a very strong visual language, right? You can spot a Hussein anywhere. But you can spot a Hussein whether it's on a canvas, it might be on a ceramic, maybe he scribbled something on a napkin, maybe he did a mural, right? The medium changed. Now what we're seeing when we're marrying art and tech is the medium is evolving. It becomes a new expression and an outlet for artists, okay, to get their stories across. When we deal with AI, here's the thing, we actually curated an exhibition on the Upside space by a very clever and renowned curator. She's Singaporean. And it was actually, the prompt was trying to find the autonomy of the individual behind the AI. Because you know what? There still is somebody at one end of the AI who's actually putting in the concept, right? AI is still not at that point. It's still not general AI. It still needs a concept. It still needs to be directed. It still is a pattern and a program. So I think that AI is very exciting. I'm not against it at all. But like anything, it can become dangerous. It depends on the intention behind it. When it comes to art, it's yet another medium. It's another outlet. Look, we have a difference between AI-generated art and generative art, right? Generative art can be like, multiple slight variations between one kind of set, kind of pattern, right, or image. AI art can be very exciting. You still have to work really hard at AI art. So I think that what we have to do, again, we're at the cusp of a revolution where we're redefining so many things in our life. What is art? What does it mean to, like, again, what is crypto? How do we deal with our wealth? You know, should we actually invest in NFTs? Should we invest in crypto or various other things? What does this even mean? The same thing goes for art. But the thing is, you have to see the artist behind it. So it's again about you investing in an individual. Whether it's like I've also heard from many VCs, what are you investing in? It's not just the company, it's the founder. It's the same thing with the artist. What are you investing in? You're investing in the artist, in their practice, in their vision, in their mind, to be able to create awe and reflect and create something that is so mind-blowing. So again, I don't think it's laziness. I don't think that necessarily these tools are going to prevent artists from developing other skills. At least I hope not. I don't foresee that happening in the next 10 years. After that, I'm not sure. All bets are off. But I think more than anything, what I want to put out there for, for our audience today, it's worthwhile to actually investigate and research these things. Investigate AI. Let's not also, and even with NFTs, like to this day, I think a lot of people are very confused about NFTs. But you know what? The information is there. I think it's so worth your while to spend a little bit of time engaging, investigating, researching, finding a couple of cool newsletters that speak the language to you, and tracking this movement. Because like it or not, this is inevitable. I'm a tech optimist. And I also think that to some extent tech is inevitable. But what is in our hands is how you want to engage with the tech and how intentional you want to be. And I would say that that's one of the biggest also, if that's maybe one of your biggest takeaways, I would really hopefully endorse that.
Thanks for your views on this. And
maybe
one thing.
Just
sure.
adding one quick point. So I think maybe adding to what Lisa just mentioned, you just don't even read about it. I would rather say that just go try it, right? I think the simplification of the tech has been reached to a point where you can do it without even spending a penny, right? You can have your own pictures minted as an NFT. Try seeing how can you post that onto a marketplace like OpenSea and see how things works. Actually, this is where, I believe would be the curiosity generation, and this would actually give you a flavor of what this technology can do, what kind of innovative use cases can come out of this.
I love that you said that, because absolutely, I mean, that really is what we should end on, is like go out there and do a test case. There's nothing to be afraid of. It has become so user-friendly. And even if it's not, it's really important to familiarize yourself with this brave new world. Look, I mean, India is very digital kind of bullish. It's very digital forward. And we have to make it, I think, a part of our responsibility to understand the tech and have the actual experience of it. And one thing that we did at the Upside Space is we wanted to make it very user-friendly and very and also be able to bridge with Web 2. We want to be able to talk to Web 2 people and make this an accessible and welcoming and frictionless experience. So for instance, you can, and I think this is the case with a lot of platforms, you can also buy with your credit card, with a swipe of your credit card. NFTs can be decoupled from crypto. It isn't all crypto-centric. So absolutely go out there, experiment, have fun. This is actually a really fun technology that has endless applications. More serious applications as well, I'm sure, with reference to real estate and DeFi and finance and all that. But why not have fun with it? Collectibles, art, and I mean, gaming. There's so much fun to be had in this world. And it'll also create a bridge between you and your kids, I'm sure.
Great views. And when we look at, just to add to what they said, right? Now, when you think about where this entire AI movement is going towards, look, there are artists who are taking inspiration from the AI artwork, saying that, okay, this is how I can get inspired out of the art. But there are also artists which are now claiming that, okay, their artwork is getting used in form of training and everything, so that I need to prove that, look, this was the art which was created by me, and this artwork was used, and because of that, now the AI generated styled photo, which is based on the style of someone, now I should get royalty on that. So NFT also helps you with that, because the royalty management, which is very, very difficult to manage, and right management is becoming very, very difficult. NFT can help you with that because it is programmed, because it is smart contract based. You can have that embedded as a part of a smart contract, and that is what people are using it for. Another thing which is on the innovation part, when you look at, there are now new innovations coming up, like you have standards. You have ERC 6551 as a new standard, where this standard specifically works very well with ERC 721 tokens. And for example, let's say you have artwork, right? And you have an art NFT. Now you want to, as a buyer of that artwork, you may want to see each and every stroke that somebody has done, right? Each and every small detail that somebody is painting. And those things are also now becoming asset, because it is linked to that art. It is, let's assume, the thought process behind it, right? It is not only the final painting. There are, sure.
I'm so sorry, I just wanted to add, because this is sort of my area of interest, not expertise. I'm not an expert in anything. But I love what you're saying. I mean, for instance, we have been experimenting like spoken word. We've actually sold 2 spoken word pieces as NFTs, as art NFTs. And again, it's about the artist behind it. You know, we digitize a lot of canvases where, I mean, you can't, if you put it on a display solution, like an NFT flat screen, specialized for that, it will look exactly like a canvas on your wall. You know, the quality is so impeccable of how we're digitizing also physical works, and then adding surprising twists to it. But also, I just want to say one thing. We tend to think in binary terms. This does not necessarily preclude life IRL. This does not overshadow physical art or daily interactions. This is an enhancement. This is meant to make our life easier and better. Let's not forget that. And that's something that I hope that also everyone, the powers that be, also understand that. That, you know, again, India has always been a country that has leapfrogged, that has hungrily and eagerly and skillfully embraced new technology. Why? Because it actually enhances our daily life on some level. It doesn't mean that all the things that we value in life outside of the digital realm disappear or overshadow. They continue side by side. And that is something that we need to keep track of in this conversation, I think, as well.
No, definitely. And the view that I had is fairly simple, that look, art is the final result. And that physical copy of art which people are looking at is not something which everyone might be interested in. But when you are looking at the end-to-end process in creating that art, not only the destination, then it connects you with that artist, right? You can understand what that artist was thinking. He started with some variation, he ended up with completely new variation. So every art tells you a story about what he thinks, how he looks at that. And by looking at these new innovative standards, like ERC 6551, etc., you are able to not only attach all these things as asset class within one art, and people can then prove that, look, this is the actual artwork which I bought, and physical art you are getting, and NFT is just the proof of that. And along with that, you are getting that entire storytelling done with this entire art process. And that brings me to the final question to Ravikant. Now, one question to you is on the innovation side. What are the new innovations which you have seen in the market right now, which you believe are more promising and you believe that are exciting to look at?
Sure, I think when it comes to NFT, it opens up floodgate of use cases. I know we have been focusing on one of the prime segment, which is the art side of it. But let me just throw some light in terms of the innovation that we are seeing. So the first one that comes to my mind is where NFTs can be kind of a membership or a license. For example, I got my Netflix membership. I've used it for 3 months, but I've taken a year-long membership. I need to pass it along. I can pass on my membership in a secondary market. Not possible today, can be done. Another example, I bought a, let's say, IPL ticket and I'm not able to go. If I'm selling it to my friend, or somebody that I'm not aware of, he would always be suspicious whether this ticket is genuine. Should he be investing? Should he be buying? There is always a question mark, right? There can be again a secondary market, and ticketing has been one of the forefront use case for NFTs, right? So this is opening up a possibility for royalty, opening up a possibility for secondary market. Another area where we are seeing innovation is kind of an executable NFT. So today, let's say if I go and buy an executable file, it could be a game, right? If I pay, let's say, $1,000 or 1,000 rupee, for example, in order to buy that game and get that executable, I use that executable, run it onto my phone, play it for some time. Now do what? There are solutions where this executable NFT can also be traded back. So I've used it for 3 months. I need to sell it back. I send it back and have it in the secondary market. Another area where we are seeing a lot of interest is in the gaming segment. So what Anshul has been mentioning about NFT in gaming, think about it. So for example, my kid asked me 500 rupees to play a game. I gave him 500 rupees. He go buy a weapon in a game, play for 3 days. Again, do what, right? For out of his interest, if he go to play game 2, he might again ask for 500 rupees, which is like an expense. But in this case, he can use that weapon as an NFT, play for that game, sell it back, get that 490 just approx, and then use that amount to play a game 2. Do the same thing, play game 3, right? Excellent use cases where we are talking about some tradable assets. Though you would see a pattern, but I think there are different use cases that have been opened up. And again, I mean, something which everyone in this room can be correlating is the documentation aspect of NFT, right? Our RT-PCR test. I'm sure that many of us may have been playing around with it, changing a date, changing a name, right? And using it as a certificate when we have to go for an urgent travel. That can be avoided, right? Legally, you should not be doing it, or ethically, we should not be doing it, right? How can somebody verify it? If that document is tamper-proof, back onto the ledger, those kind of document tampering can be avoided, whether it is your lift license, whether this is your medical record, whether this is your RT-PCR, whether this is your caste certificate. I think all those documentation have a very valid use case when it comes to NFT.
Thanks. Any closing comments from your side?
Okay, I just want to go back to the generative art part of it, because I think the AI generated art is actually probably the largest unlock of art, according to me. I am definitely not a art connoisseur. I don't understand art that well, so excuse me for my comments if they are offensive in any way. But I think the one part about fine arts, which has always escaped sort of general people, like you rightly said, Lisa, is it's very elitist, is also because it's very unapproachable, right? Now, and I think as an artist as well, the difficulty has been if Mr. Hussain has created, let's call it 20 paintings, these are just the 20 paintings that he can sell. How do you actually productize it and actually create more and more? Where I think AI art will actually come is that the style, like you said, I'm using the same example of Hussain, that he has a very bold visual language. I think AI can actually be trained for that specific language, right? And then you can actually productize that AI art for each individual. And I could actually come up and say, hey, create myself in the way MF Hussain would create, right? Or if I have a particular idea, that could be the prompt which I give, and it's created in the style of MF Hussain. There is a royalty that goes to him or his trust or family now. And I actually own that art, which is unique to me, but also has the style of MF Hussain, right? And I think NFTs, which were using generative art, the reason they are using generative art is to create a community. Every person needs to have an individuality, but also need to have something that connects to them, right? So it can't be that I own an art piece, which is almost completely different than what you own. There has to be some commonality, but yet some uniqueness that is there. And I think AI-generated art is actually going to bridge that barrier, which is, it'll actually productize and industrialize fine arts for the people.
I mean, thank you for that, Anshul. I'll make it really quick. I think that's such an extraordinary and very valid point of view, and I appreciate it because it is true. That is my point, is that fine arts has built this aura around itself, and that's what we're trying to smash with this technology. And let me say, in my perspective, and maybe I am spending too much time on Twitter, I think that art has never been discussed as much as it has been because of NFTs. And that's healthy. As someone who just loves art and is for the artist and is for creation, everyone can be an artist. See, again, you know, the first reaction of people say is like, I don't understand art. Where does that come from? I don't understand how my phone works, but I still use it. It's the same thing with art. But that is the problem of the art world. And that's why I keep saying we're at the cusp of a revolution. It is truly the democratization of art. Look, there will always be people who will aspire, and these are false categories. We have to use these categories right now. When I say fine arts, it's a particular style or particular approach towards art. Generative art is as legitimate art as all of it is legitimate. It all should come under art, and one day we won't say art NFTs, we will just say art. That day is coming. So as I said, right now is a great time to get in and educate yourself and buy an art NFT. You can find something out there, hold on to it. Hold on to it and start getting involved in this new ecosystem as well. But I agree with what you say about it, you know, the tokenization and, you know, creating these kinds of projects that are like become memberships and have utilities. That's something that we're thinking about next stage, phase 2, because obviously that is the quickest way of creating community. And it's really cool as well to be a part of something. I think it's a very human impulse to want to be part of something. And remember please that this is about community and it's a little mini revolution that's going on. So before you even judge it or dismiss it or say, again, just like art, I don't understand it, please spend some time understanding it and actually take the leap and get in there and have some fun.
Thanks. That concludes our panel. Thanks, everyone. Thanks.
I request Mr. Piyush Chand, CA Piyush sir, to kindly give the vote of thanks. Okay, I'm also going to.
So, we all are here to join the ICAI Startup-Sphere. This is just not an event, it is a statement by ICAI that we CAs are part of the space. And I thank each one of you to join this event and explaining us the nuances and intricacies of NFTs and smart contract and art and I realize that even an auditor is an artist when he is practicing it day by day and making a statement in that. So I thank all of you, all the participants as well to join this program, and thank you very much.
A very good afternoon, everyone. Coming to the third technical session for the day in the Tech Fusion track, I am CA Riddhi Jain. I belong to Raipur. I'm taking this topic, blockchain and its recent developments. Before I start the topic, I'd like to say that there are so many things that is going on in the industry that is going to be taken up by our panelist and the moderator. At the same time, this is the most phenomenal industry that I've ever seen. Everything that comes in this particular market includes your Bitcoin, your cryptocurrencies, your NFT, your CeFi, and a lot more things that are coming up there. I'd like CA Ankit Rathi to join the dais, CA Gautam Lat, Mr. Sudeep Saxena, Mr. Puneet Agrawal, Mr. Sharad Chandra, and Mr. Varun Doob. This is a technology that has been most talked of, irrespective of the fact that people talk about Bitcoins, people talk about cryptocurrencies, people talk about, okay, what things are going to be enterprised over a blockchain. People talk about ransom money that is taken away. People talk about their monies getting lost because it was in blockchain. There are so many developments that are going around in the market, be it CBDC, be it USDC. All the governments, including Indian and foreign governments, are there to see the development in the blockchain. Our Honorable Ministry has always said that she wholeheartedly welcomes the blockchain industry. So the best part is this industry is welcomed by India and its ministry. Without further more delay, I would like CA Ankit Rathi to give the opening remarks of the session.
Very good afternoon. Yeah, it's indeed pleasure and privilege to be here with you all. At the outset, let me welcome all the speakers and panelists. Sir, thank you so much. Despite of your so much busy schedule, you took time and graced the occasion and being agreed to share your valuable views toward our audience. Thank you so much. Yeah, topic for this session is very interesting and as rightly said by ma'am, wholeheartedly accepted by our ministry and government also. So I not want to take your much of time because we have very learned speaker with us. Thank you so much.
We would like to felicitate Sharat Chandra, who is a startup enabler, educator, blockchain and emerging technology evangelist. Mr. Chandra is co-founder of Indian Blockchain Forum, advisor at GMR Airports Blockchain Center of Excellence, Hyderabad, mentors startups in blockchain technology. He provides growth strategy advisory startup and helps to incorporate engagements and market across Southeast Asia and India. I would like our RCMs to felicitate Mr. Sharat Chandra. It's a privilege to have the learned speakers here. The real scene scenario of the session is our learned speakers have their flight immediately after the sessions. So the proceedings are going to be very fast in the session. I'd like everyone on the dais to join while we felicitate our speakers. Our learned other speakers are also requested to join in for the photography. Yes. Sir. We are totally graced by the presence of our beloved speakers, and it's a pleasure for us to understand and know that they have managed their schedules to be here. Next, we would like to felicitate Punit Agrawal, who is founder and CEO of CoinX, a platform that simplifies crypto tax calculations. With 5 years of experience in blockchain landscape, Mr. Punit has held key position in various blockchain and crypto projects in India. With a very keen interest in entrepreneurship, he is actively engaged in crypto and startup ecosystem. He has also generated Crypto Relief Fund of 500 million impact fund initiated by Sandeep Nelwal. He oversaw significant healthcare initiatives across India. A big round of applause for Mr. Punit Agrawal. Next is Mr. Sudeep Saxena. Sudeep Saxena is the person behind Coin Gabbar. He is co-founder of Coin Gabbar. This particular stall is present in the present auditorium. If you go and figure out straight and right, in front of auditorium A, in front of the block A, we find a stall there. And Coin Gabbar is highly active with all the maybe Gabbar who kind of shows there. We heartily welcome Mr. Sudeep Saxena, co-founder of Coin Gabbar. Next, I take privilege to introduce Mr. Varun Doob. He has worked in the industry of blockchain. He's highly and deeply working around the technologies like Web3, DeFi, DID, NFTs, and crypto. Mr. Varun Doob is the moderator of the session and head of blockchain labs at Lab 45 at Wipro. not taking much of your time, I directly give it away to our moderator for the session, Mr. Varun Dub, to take away.
Am I audible? Okay. Thank you so much, Riddhi. My name is Varun. I'm from Lab 45 Wipro, and I'm head of blockchain at Lab 45. I have a very eminent panel today here with us, and let's start with introductions, but we are going to do things a little differently. So apart from what's on internet, we want to know about all of you a little bit more personally. What do you do that people don't know on your profile, right? So in your personal lives, what are your hobbies? How do you spend time when you're not working? So if you could, while introducing, if you could talk about yourself, your interests, and of course the company that you work for, that will be really interesting. Thank you. We can start with Sharad.
Hi, good evening everyone. Pleasure to be here, and let me thank ICI and the entire community for giving us the opportunity. So I lead the India Blockchain Forum, work with multiple startups, we work with governments, enterprises, and I am also a big movie buff. In my free time, I watch movies with my two daughters, and the movies range from Disney to DC Comics, from Frozen to even The Dark Knight Rises. So I have two daughters, one is 10 years old and one is 1 year old. So I keep that balance of movies. Thank you.
Hello everyone, it's an honor to be here, and thanks Jayjit and ICI and other community members for inviting in over here. I am Puneet Agarwal, founder of CoinX, and the platform is more about crypto taxation, accounting, and regulatory. Previous to this, I was heading in Crypto Relief Fund, like the fund that Vitalik Buterin contributed $1 billion in Shiba Inu tokens. Apart from what I do regularly, like I am very fond of board games. I do like to play a lot of board games, and like that includes Game of Life, Stock Exchange, and many other such games. And I also enjoy watching TV series that is primarily about heist, money heist, and like robbery and others. That's pretty much about me. Thank you.
I mean, this is a pretty interesting start to things, but all thanks to you. So, introduction about me, I'm Sudeep Saxena, founder of CoinGubber. Personally, I have around 23 years of experience with the accounting and financial consulting field. I myself have been a startup mentor for 10 years. And then the tables turned around and I came on this side. If I talk about hobbies, my basic hobbies like researching a lot, reading about almost everything. I have a habit of completing at least one book every week. I am an avid athlete, like to play badminton, cricket, football, and volleyball. These are my core sports. So that is what I do most of the times, and favorite gadget is Kindle.
Wow, so that was some interesting insights from everybody beyond the formal introduction, which is, yeah, this is what I do and this is where I work. But so let's start this session. Again, we will do it a little differently. We'll not wait till the end of sessions to have questions from the audience. So if you have any questions, kindly raise your hands during the presentation, and I'll try to accommodate few questions as I ask them questions. And then the balance we will take it towards the end, right? So let's start with blockchain. I think all of you are here. You know what is blockchain, so I'll not start there. But let's start with Sharad. Sharad, what do you think are your views on the adoption of blockchain, especially with all this buzz around Web3 and other things, and the enterprise adoption and the non-enterprise adoption? There was a report a couple of years back which showed that the highest or the biggest adoption of blockchain is in the public sector, which is the government and government-related and public sector. Do you still see the same trend, or do you see private participation coming in the blockchain area?
So I would say it's a great question, Varun. So what's happening is that adoption is happening in pockets, and public sector, the government anyways has a bigger role to play. So let me start by giving some examples from my state, Karnataka, where there's a Karnataka Skill Development Corporation, and they have started issuing skill certificates, more than 30,000 certificates on blockchain using Polygon technology. And recently, one of our startup members, so I lead India Blockchain Forum, one of our startups, they launched certificates for National Academy of Indian Railways, a part of Indian Railways. And basis that, the Indian Railways is more keen to explore what are the use cases of metaverse with respect to virtual tourism. Let's say there are places of worship, places of pilgrimage, right? How they can bring in elements of gamification. And I was talking to Ravi from Polygon, what are the possibilities, how we can enable central governments like railways to even empower Indian users or Gen Z and millennials to explore what's new about India, with the places we're still unexplored, right? How can we enable them to access knowledge in terms of places of worship through games? So that's one area. And with respect to enterprises are gradually moving into this space. So I also am one of the advisors to GMR Airport Blockchain Center of Excellence, where the idea is to look at the logistics and supply chain elements of blockchain adoption, right? But mostly on the enterprise side, enterprises are going slowly, cautiously. They are looking at some of the lowest hanging use cases, starting from loyalty, NFTs, and that's why you see the Salesforce of the world, even SAP now they are using USDC for cross-border payments, right? So I think gradually the space will pick up.
Yeah, I mean, this is one interesting space where typically you see any emerging tech adoption cycle, startups and the enterprises are the first to adopt it. And the government is the last one to pitch in. This is one technology where globally government is taking a lead and the others and private sector and other use cases are following them, right? So I think that's an interesting view. Puneet, what's your view on, you have been working on the compliance side and other things. So you're very deeply involved with enterprises and stuff, right? What do you see is the trend of adoption on blockchain with enterprises and private sector?
Sure. So one of the things I see with enterprises, while everyone is interested to explore blockchain as a technology, very few of them actually, understanding on how the technology can benefit in their use case. So what I believe in is awareness and education. Like blockchain nowadays, everyone knows about blockchain, or at least I've heard about blockchain or Bitcoin. But when it actually comes about adoption of, migrating from their existing Web2 solution to a Web3 solution, or adding blockchain to their infrastructure, a lot of them have concerns about being too transparent, being too open. And that is where, the idea comes in, like, if we do any transaction, everything would be open and available out for the public. How can we ensure that our data is protected? How can we ensure that our, whatever transactions that is happening in between the companies or between our clients, that is secured? So I see some of these questions coming in around, and this proves in some of the lack of awareness or education in terms of how the technology can robustly be used in the enterprise environment itself. So I think one of the challenges there is about educating them, about awareing them, and then explaining them about different use cases that can be looked into, and how these enterprises and organizations can benefit out of the technology. So I see these first level things a lot of coming in from the enterprises even today, Varun.
I think you've brought in a very important point. In fact, I and Sharad, while having a hearty lunch, we were also speaking about this, right? It's not about the technology. It's about what problem you're trying to solve, right? And often the discussions are very clouded with the technology, how it works, what it is, should I use it or not, rather than whether do I need it, right? So Sudeep, to your, coming to you, what do you think are the top use cases that you are seeing in this industry? And something if you could pick and talk about where, we should be proud of the scale, right? It's not a POC, it's not a pilot, something that is going live. Yeah, I mean, what are the interesting use cases you see?
Well, being from the accountancy field, the biggest use case, the first thing that we understood was ledger. And the first thing blockchain talks about is distributed ledger. So that topic automatically gets close to your heart, that you are having a data which is solely distributed across all the places, and you are having much secured ecosystem. You cannot erase it, you cannot change it, you cannot modify it. So that is the biggest use case, because in the 21st century, why AI is taking so much prominence, why data analytics is taking so much prominence, because for the past 20, 25 years, seeds have been sown to embed data collection into each and every function that is happening. Even if you're going to a shopping mall and if there is somebody who's asking for your phone number for a free gift, he's collecting data. So data collection points have been right from the shopping malls to the shopping purchases you are making either on Amazon, Big Bazaar or wherever you are doing. So the data collection has accessorized data analytics, and with the distribution data saving centers or with the distribution data analytics, if you can do this in a much distributed way and you cannot tamper or modify with the data, that gives you the strongest tool in the world to operate this kind of an ecosystem. So that is the biggest use case, first thing. When you're talking about applications of how this technology can be used in the times to come, applications are everywhere. So anywhere and everywhere there's data involved, or anywhere and everywhere there's a security concern involved, blockchain is going to find a use case. Wherever you want your data to be safe, secured, non-temperable, non-hackable, and in a format so that the transparency, I mean, you're talking about transparency, there's no problem with transparency or openness, because if you feel that your bedroom chats are not getting noticed by the cell phone that you have by your bedside, it is getting that. He's catching your data to that point. So nothing is safe, nothing is like personal now, everything is out there in public. And with the technology which is getting you that kind of transparency or that kind of independence, especially, this is my favorite example that I give most of the times in my chats, is that when you talk about organizations which are holding onto the technology, be it the Googles or the Microsofts or Facebooks of the nature, these organizations mostly are earning on data, and these are the tech giants. These have been working on centralization. And one thing that we are forgetting right now is that these people are coming into blockchain, and we are getting, with the distributed technology, with the decentralized technology, we are again going back to the centralization of power. This is something that should be warranted, should be checked by the tech czars sitting here, and maybe something should be thought about that.
Thank you, Sudeep. I think, so I'm going to delegate my job for one question to all of you. So think over it. If you have any questions, just raise your hands. Coming to Sharad, Sharad, do you have any more use cases to add to what Sudeep said?
Right. In fact, when I met Sudeep at his stall, so we were discussing about the duopoly of the app stores and how decentralized app stores are being enabled by players like Polygon, where a Web3 project can create its own app store. So what it enables these projects is to create their own monetization engine, own recommendation engine, so that you are dealing to decoupled from the whimsical rules of Apples and Androids of the world, right? So I think that's one enabling area where promising projects can unlock opportunity and capital for their own, I would say, value creation through decentralized app stores. So one great development, I would say, and the good part is open source. All developers can come and start building on top of that.
Puneet, you have something to add?
Sure. So, as Sharath was mentioning about, Karnataka KSDC issuing certificates, similar was with many other places. Like, let me talk about some of the Indian government use cases, and then we can talk about the enterprise use cases that we seen widely adopted. There's a small district in Maharashtra called as Gadchiroli, and there, the caste certificates were issued on blockchain on a very high scale. Like about 60,000 plus caste certificates that were issued on blockchain in Gadchiroli. That is one, very powerful use case of blockchain. So anything that comes in with, like ensuring that the identity is protected and stored for a larger period of time. That can be for skill certification, that can be for a caste certification, that can be for identity certification, or even, down the lane we might see Aadhaar or, like some of these, personal identification also coming in on blockchain and leveraging the power of distributed ledger technology. Now, apart from this, while the enterprises are looking at transforming from Web 2 to Web 3, the immediate low-hanging fruit which they are seeing in is around metaverse. Like how do they immediately take in their existing physical store into a metaverse store and give you the enhancement or experience where, let's say, you're buying an earphone or you're buying a television or you're buying a car, you can actually take a look, feel of the 3D model there, try experience it out, like all those stuff. And this is something that is coming in through the metaverse ecosystem and the NFTs that is coming in. And we have seen brands like Flipkart, Nike, Adidas, and many other fashion brands. All of them have at least explored their use case of NFT in the metaverse. So this is something about adding on onto the enterprise side and the government side around the use cases that are pretty widely seen across the blockchain ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, it's an exciting time. I don't know how many of you know in solar power generation, there's this whole concept of peer-to-peer trading, where you produce electricity out of solar cells that are put at the rooftop of your house, and you use that electricity, and the surplus you sell it back to the grid, right? And there are multiple configurations. But did you know that all these systems and the trading of this energy was powered by blockchain? So there is Energy Web Foundation, there is Power Ledger. You've heard, I don't know if you've heard tracking, last 2 months back, UP announced a entire policy around this particular framework, right? Delhi has already completed a pilot around this. So that's one cases where blockchain will not only touch your daily lives, it will come and sit on your rooftop, right? It is that close to you. It's just that you have not realized it. And I believe some of the best implementations of blockchain, I was talking to Sharad, is, did you know DigiYatra uses blockchain technology in the background? Unless you go and read the fine print, you will never know, right? So the point is, see, one of the best implementations of technology is where you can't see the technology. You interact with the experience, you look at the experience, but you will never see the technology. It's so intertwined, finely intertwined into your experience, right? I think that, yeah, so as promised, one question from audience. Anybody? Yes, sir. Can we get one mic there? There's nobody?
Meanwhile, I'll add something to what you said. When you were talking about intertwining of technology from one part to another, or a transition in that way, one very important thing, a very good move with the blockchain has been that this technology has adopted itself so well in the background that the front-end users don't even differentiate when they have shifted to blockchain. That is the beauty that we can see. So front-end has not changed, everything has not changed, but user experience has been better, data has been better, everything has been better without any change in the interface. That is the beauty of this technology, why the adoption rate is so high and so fast.
Yes, have you come across any cases where OECD or some organization that are trying to have some rollout on global international taxation on blockchain or something like this? Because they have rolled out the global minimum tax rules. So anything that you come across the things?
Anything from, so Puneet?
Sure. So one thing that we have seen with OECD is, so now let's say a person, an Indian resident, is, since blockchain and cryptocurrencies primarily have no geographic boundaries, right? So even when I'm sitting in India, I can go and trade on exchanges like Binance. I can still use the decentralization networks like Ethereum, Polygon, Solana. I can do any NFT transactions with anyone across the globe. Now, if I am trading on any of these international platforms, and let's say Indian government wants to know the details about like who this person is, who does this transaction belong to, how do they get an access to this information? One way could be they directly go and knock the doors of those exchanges and platforms to share the user identity and information, but they are not obliged to go and share it. That is where the role of OECD comes in, and they bring in a platform where all the countries that are part of OECD countries have to self-declare the information of the users that are, like using it on that platform, and they declare all the information and details out so that is readily available at the disposal for any other government to look at it. Recently, OECD announced this framework. So this is something that was happening in for any fiat transaction ecosystem. So let's say if I am buying anything across, on an US platform, so that was automatically or could be tracked by Indian government. Now, the same things have been also applied to Indian crypto exchanges and any crypto companies. So with the latest OECD add-on framework, even if I am trading on exchanges like Binance, that data is readily that data is available at disposal to the Indian government automatically at every periodic intervals by Binance and other exchange platforms. Those are part of the OECD country consortium. So this is something that we have seen as a development by OECD recently, And the idea is to bring in global crypto regulation together, because this is not something that can be solved by one country or one nation. This is something that group of countries and consortium have to come in together to try and adopt and solve for this use case.
It would be like just an exchange of information between the countries and all.
Exactly. That is
Thank
something that has started with, but later on there can be many other things.
I will need that mic back. Thank you. One more question? Okay, yeah, please go ahead.
So there's ESG framework also going on big way, and the blockchain is completely opposite contrary to the ESG, because the blockchain technology need huge amount of electricity and big server space. All are based out of the Atlantic, and because of the ice, and this global warming is also happening. So how are you going to manage this contradiction among blockchain technology? Because across world 200 plus country, few countries are accepting blockchain technology, and most of the countries are very reluctant to use the blockchain because of this misuses or the great amount of energy and other losses, global warming, etc. So how we are going to come up and overcome from these situations? Thank you.
I'll start and then Sudeep can join me to answer. So we are aware and we are the culprits, and all of us here, because we all belong to the blockchain industry and we are the ones who are proposing it, right? But you have to understand this, right? I mean, we will get into that after this question, the details and the nuances of private chains versus private blockchains, public blockchains and stuff, right? But there are active industry initiatives that are going around building chains that are more sustainable in nature, right? And as India is one of the top minds and the brains, and it won't be appropriate for me to call out those names, but there are chains in India that are getting developed which are extremely sustainable conscious, right? So we are aware. It's just that we don't have an answer yet, but we will get there, right? Again, it depends on what do you want to use blockchain for, right? That is a very important thing. So with that, I'll give it to Sharath and Sudeep to want to add something.
Just to add to Varun's point about sustainable blockchain platforms, where we have one of the best, I would say, carbon neutral or sustainable blockchain platforms called Hedera, where Wipro is one of the governing council members. And I had the privilege to lead the Hedera ambassador program way back in 2020. And with the kind of governing council members they have Wipros of the world, TCS, even IIT Madras is one of the governing council members. So the idea is to create a sustainable blockchain platform which is not energy intensive, but again, suited enough to support scalability with the right elements of security and governance. So that there's a huge trade-off to be made between security, governance, and scalability. And that's where the question of public versus private blockchain comes in, and maybe Sudeep can throw more light on that.
So one thing, I mean, that's a point of common knowledge. One is that the second largest blockchain, what we call it, Ethereum, has recently shifted. Because of these concerns only, they've shifted from proof of work to proof of stake. So 99% of the energy consumption has reduced. Bitcoin, because of obvious reasons, being the godfather of blockchains, cannot move back. We don't even know the owners of Bitcoin yet. But that has been done. Second is, you should also consider the energy consumption vis-a-vis the scalability of the technology that blockchain is offering. So first thing is that Visa, having one of the very powerful servers, can transact around 24,000 transactions per second. That is Visa. Few of the blockchains have the capacity to do more than 2 lakh transactions per second. Just imagine when Visa, MasterCard, and RuPay and every such chain data gets to the blockchain, they're able to record much more transactions which cannot be erased, which cannot be modified later on, always permanently there on the distributed ledger, and still consuming less energy than the most powerful servers of Visa and blockchain, and become unhackable, unchangeable, because the data is not centralized, it is decentralized. So these are the perspectives where we should consider the implication of blockchain and how blockchain is going to change the world. So what Varun rightly pointed out, that it is more about the perspective where you're using it. If you're using it for fun, maybe the energy consumption seems not that viable. But if you're using it for real technology purposes, solving a problem, that actually goes a long way in even introducing the sustainability when we are talking about the energy consumption and other things.
Well, that sort of gives us the a leeway into types of blockchain, right? Everybody is talking about public blockchains, private. People were very crazy about private blockchains, but now suddenly everything is public. And then there is something in between which is hybrid, public, permissionless, private. You know, all those combinations and permutations, right? What's your perspective? We can start with Puneet.
Sure. So, again, looking at the use cases. So, let's say public blockchain. This is some of the popular blockchains that we see. Bitcoin, Ethereum, all of these are public blockchains. And when we say public blockchain, what is the major difference between public and private? Public is something that anyone does any transactions, all of them get encrypted. There's a hash that gets generated, and everything, as in all the information is now pushed into the blockchain. And I, sitting over here, you sitting over here, we can just look at everyone and anyone across the globe who are transacting on Ethereum network or Bitcoin network. And all what we'll be able to see is an address, from address to address, the transactions moving, the details of the transactions, but in an encrypted format. We would not know who does this exactly belong to, but we would know that someone, a person A, has transferred some, some transaction to person B. Now, who does that person A belongs to, or who is that person B? We might not know that details. So this is something that public ecosystem or public blockchain offers in. Now, coming about enterprise blockchains or private blockchains, now what companies said is, like if we are starting and doing transactions, and let's say we do transactions with a lot of our clients, they know who are identities because they are going and doing transactions with us. So now person A is revealed because I am that person A. So now they can keep a track of me and they can see who all am I transacting with. And they might be interlinking and transacting between them. So this body of 10, 15 people, all of their identities are revealed and everyone is now able to see like who is transacting with whom, how much of contracts, how much of amount, what frequency, what details. And that might lead to conflict of interest or, like personal identification or personal details getting out on blockchain. So what they said is, while the technology is very interesting, we want to leverage the power of the technology, but we don't want to reveal in our identities. And that is where the concept of private blockchains came in. And they started saying that, okay, we are doing the transactions, but we'll not be revealing identity. Or if you want to get into that blockchain, you need to become a member or you need to have a login credentials, access controls.
It is visible only to the consortium.
Exactly, to the access people who have access controls and people who are authorized to view those transactions. So this is how like the evaluation of private blockchains came in, wherein like a group of party, let's say like 4 of us and about 20, 25 people or 40 people in this room, we start in a private network and only we can see any transactions happening in this network, and rest of the entire world cannot see what's happening in. So this is something that private blockchain offered in, and like hybrid brought in an ecosystem where they said, let's not do everything between us. Let's do some transactions, and let's say at the end of the day, just giving an example. Okay, we all transacted in, day out, and at the end of the day, we said final balances are this of all the person, and this is something that we just push out to the public network for the world to know that, okay, these 40 people, this is their day start status, this is their day end status, and in between, they have done some transactions. So this is something that hybrid comes in with. Like we are doing all the transactions, they might not know each and every detail, but some details are available on public, some details are private. So I think this is primarily how the entire ecosystem, like depending on what use cases someone wanted in, the entire industry and the type of private, public and permissioned, hybrid, all these terms came across.
So Sharath, what's your view? Will all these chains coexist? Will one of them eliminate? Who will be the most fittest of them all? What do you think will be the future?
So I don't think there is a Darwinism at play here. There will be coexistence for sure. And chains will gain acceptance or adoption depending upon the use cases where they're involved. For example, let's look at the central bank digital currency projects across the globe. Most of them are permissioned ones, right? Because there are certain regulations with respect to certain countries where, let's say, let's look at India for that matter, where payment data has to be stored within the geographical boundaries of the country, right? So there are data localization guidelines, there's data sovereignty at play, and countries are pushing forward for more data protectionism. So as far as payments and financial services are concerned, most of the activity, most of the adoption will happen on enterprise or permission blockchains. R3 Corp is a great example where they are pushing multiple CBDC projects across the globe. But if you look at more public participation or innovation, that's where public blockchains come into play, right? And mostly layer 2s of the world, the polygons of the world, and algorithms of the world. So they are also technically, I would say, far more innovative and superior in some areas in terms of DeFi. So depending upon the use case, the coexistence of all chains will be there for sure. There will not be one chain ruling all. But what's more important is how do we ensure interoperability across all these chains, because depending on the use cases, new chains might crop up in future, right? So interoperability, open standards will be the key to creating use cases or enabling data flows across all chains seamlessly.
Well, the good news is almost every blockchain protocol is open source. It's all on GitHub. So just go, you want to see Ethereum code, it's all there, right? So I think it's just a matter of time where some intelligent person starts picking up these codes and starts making them interoperable. A lot of initiatives are already happening as we speak. And I know as CAs, all of you is like, ये बंदा crypto की बात क्यों नहीं कर रहा है, right? Right? I think, yeah, that's the hottest topic in India at least, right? Crypto normally comes into picture when you're talking about public chains. So let's short circuit our conversation and go to the topic, put the elephant in the room. Lot of ambiguity, Sudeep, right? It is illegal, it is banned, but you have to pay taxes, right? And you can, nobody knows where it is going, right? And what's your opinion about it? Why there is so much of apprehension and confusion? I know it is not priority one for government. We have other challenges to take care of in India, right? Crypto is the last of our worries today. But it is hampering innovation. There are Web3 founders who created things here, right in India, and they're moving out. I always thought software talent was global talent. It was never an Indian talent, right? In IT, we just don't have any boundaries. But what's your perspective about this? Is this whole crypto ambiguity, do you see an issue in terms of government to prioritize it and take calls around it on that front?
But if we talk about this thing in particular, why some people, I don't know, that's a big myth that crypto is banned in India. Crypto is not. Crypto trading is absolutely legal. There's nobody banning it, even the government. I mean, the biggest example is that exchanges are having license to operate in India and they're not being stopped. The only concern government has is the uncharted and untraced flow of money inside the inside the sovereign boundaries of India and outside. That is the biggest problem that is there with the blockchain. So just imagine, we are not unknown to these things. Hawalas have already been there, like millions and billions of funds daily transacted through Hawala transactions. But then in the case of Hawala, if there is an illegal transaction, then there is some person to nab. The enforcement directorate can anytime go and check a person that this is the person who has done a transaction, the money has been routed to some terrorist organization and they have done some things, and then you can catch the person and can track the trail. While this is not possible in the case of a blockchain, because it's always a wallet. So what you can simply do is you can come down, you can have a wallet, get the amount there and can use it. This is a particular perspective that the government wants to stop, and that is why crypto trading has been so controlled of late. Crypto is not banned, that's very clear. Government is of a clear perspective that they are promoting blockchain technology. Sharat is sitting with us. A lot of government projects, sort of government initiatives are done in the blockchain. But crypto is, something that is not wholeheartedly acceptable to the government. Compliance part we talk about, you can trade, you can do whatever as a security class to the crypto. The only problem with is that if you create a crypto on the compliance part, the very important thing is that you are paying almost half of the money that you are raising in issuance of a crypto asset to the government, 30% being the direct taxation, 18% the GST and surcharges included, you are paying around 50-51% to the government. So don't raise money in India. You were talking about brain drain. Don't raise money in India in the form of crypto tokens. If you're talking about the brain drain, the biggest thing that is happening, you and me, all of us move across the Web3 circle in the world. 70% of the developers or the project owners are still coming from India. So India is a big force in technology, be it anything, even in the Web3 world, in the blockchain world, India is a big technology. So nobody can stop that from taking the world by storm. That is always the case.
First of all, let me clarify. I'm part of the crime syndicate. But here my role is of a public prosecutor, right? So these are the sentiments that I'm talking about. I necessarily don't share their sentiments, right? Coming to Puneet. Puneet, what's your view on the compliance side of the world of blockchains?
Sure. Before I start in that, I would just like to also add into the previous question and, like about how government looks into cryptocurrencies. And Sudeep gave in a very good example about like there's a person to go and nab if, like if things are happening in Hawala transaction. But government, like there have been a lot of questions around like money laundering can happen and through crypto and it's very easy. But on the contrary side, what I believe is the only way to stop money laundering is through cryptocurrencies and blockchain. How? Like let's say if a person is doing an Hawala transaction, the entire thing is cash. Like, and once like you cannot trace back like who, if you have a 1,000 rupee or a 2,000 rupee note in your pocket, or now both of them are, like one is banned and another one is like not available anymore. It's de-withdrawal. But let's say 500 rupee note. So if you have 500 rupee note in your wallet, you would not know who was owning it before me, or where did it actually transfer in from, and the entire trace is lost, right? And no one would be able to trace back like who exactly was holding this before or who was controlling it before me. But in cryptocurrency, all what it takes in is to reveal that identity A. Once that person is known or who that person is, his entire trail of transactions, even if it be 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, anything that happens on blockchain, it stays on blockchain forever. You cannot delete it.
That is another side of the problem, the privacy part,
Right.
right? While I want to make compliant, I don't want to, release my entire account history on internet. So I'll come to that. But before we get there, Sharath, coming to you, what is government doing? I know they love blockchain as a technology, but a very important part of public chains is the coins and the tokens. We technical people call it tokens. You guys call it crypto. We call it tokens because without that, a public chain won't function, right? So what is your perspective on government policy? You've been involved across multiple initiatives. What's your view on that?
So I will put my statement depending upon what's already available in the public domain and what all I can share with you all in general. So there's a view within the government, and this is more like a public stance, that they want to promote responsible innovation, and it's not that they want to. I mean, despite the contrary public opinion that they're against crypto in general, but because there are multiple public announcements that crypto technology can foster financial innovation as well, right? So that acceptance of the fact is already there. Now, what's happening is, since this technology itself cannot be, the regulation around that cannot be done by one country, and India as a G20 president has the right opportunity to move forward and frame those regulations. And that's why we'll see by September, because G20 conference in India will conclude in September, and Financial Stability Board will also roll out their guidelines. Yesterday, even the FATF, Financial Action Task Force, came up with a recent update on virtual assets, where you can bring in the right set of compliance and rules in terms of tracking digital assets. So I think as G20 president, India is looking forward to how can they have a comprehensive crypto regulation in place, and then only they can move slowly, and so that they do not, they keep bad actors at play, right? So compliance, there are enough tools to ensure compliance, but again, since there's no consensus globally how to do it, I think that's what is holding us back.
Well, I think, yeah, that's the point, and G20 is a very good forum, and then it is interesting because neither us, I mean, anybody has not done it, everybody has not done it, right? So nobody has that kind of a robust framework. Everybody is figuring out and trying to put things in place. So coming back to you, Puneet, what are the top two things from a compliance perspective and from a CA perspective that you would want to leave the audience with?
Sure. I think top two things that Indian government at least is looking at, A, is already around taxation in terms of, like now there's a very simple blanket framework about 30%, but when it comes to, other, like let's say non-crypto taxation, then you have in short-term gains, long-term gains, interest income, savings interest income, like gifts, donations, etc., etc. And all of these transactions can also happen in cryptocurrency ecosystem. So now do we bring in a robust framework that accounts for all of these different type of transactions and accordingly brings in the taxation framework, that's A. And B, there are thousands and tens of thousands of startups and companies across the globe that are dealing with cryptocurrencies, enterprises, companies, and and any blockchain startup that is bringing in their own token, like distributing that across, raising funds, paying salaries in cryptocurrencies, tokens, etc., etc. Now, what is the underlying balance sheet, P&L, and the entire books of accounts for these enterprises? I think these are two areas that we as tax professionals and chartered accountants can look at into this space.
Now with that, we will do less of talking. We just have 4 more minutes to go. So we will open this for questions. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Okay. Now since we came across both the things about the blockchain and the crypto part and all this, so we know now regulations are not there. Uncertainties is still there about that how the cryptos will be placed in across the globe. So what do you see in the future actually about because looking at the global market, where like if you see like investment banking arm also today has came up, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, they have come up also and they are investing their 5% of portfolios into the cryptos, grayscales and all that. So how you see India, first point, where will it be regularized for the crypto base also? Because there are a lot of cryptos and a lot of projects. If we see live projects which are good, but there are plenty of things which are just a token or just a currency in the format. So you can't have segregations of that. So how you see that differentiate will happen and what government will play a role on that actually to segregate that from the real project to the fake projects like that?
Yeah, I think government is implementing blockchain at scale. That is my understanding. Indian government. On the private blockchain side, right? Now coming to crypto, which is a token or a way to access your public blockchain. I'll leave it to the team to answer that.
So to answer your question on the crypto aspect as well. So see there, the government, both the state as well as some of the central government I would say entities, right? They are adopting a sandbox approach. So there's a Telangana government regulatory Web3 sandbox where there are startups which are exploring real estate tokenization, right? So there's 7 startups as part of the cohort, and we as India Blockchain Forum are part of the advisory group over there. There is another innovation sandbox at GIFT City, IFSCA, which is established under the Act of Parliament, where a bond tokenization project is being undertaken by IFSCA officials, right? So depending upon the application and depending upon the utility of the use case, the government is keen to offer the right relaxation as part of a sandbox program, right? And once they see utility and merit, right, in terms of what are the outcomes they are able to show, the startups they are able to show, the government has an open mind. They will be more than happy to take it forward depending upon what kind of use cases are bringing forward. So I would say sandboxes are a great example. Telangana government sandbox is a great step. If you want to explore and experiment use cases as part of, let's say, capital markets, bond tokenization, then IFSCA sandbox is a great example.
We have one more question there.
Hello, sirs. So my question is that when Puneet sir was talking about private and public blockchains, so you talked about that we will not be able to reveal the identity of that person A and person B. And we already addressed the security issues that comes with cryptocurrency and how it's untraceable who's operating that cryptocurrency part. So my question is regarding the blockchain. How can governments prevent terrorist organizations and other such organizations from using private blockchain and using blockchain as a method of using like sensitive data and all of that? So that's my question.
So Puneet, you can take up that question, but the guy is sitting right beside you. You should talk to him.
Right. So when it comes to terrorist activities or any such similar activities around blockchain, so let's say even if terrorist organization comes and creates their own private network and does transactions between them, in that case, these transactions or these tokens are not having any value outside of that network, right? That tokens and that entire ecosystem, that any transaction that is happening over there, any asset, like let's say Ethereum as a like coin or a token, it does not have any value beyond Ethereum network. Like Bitcoin network does not value Ethereum network, Ethereum as a token, because any coin has the underlying value only in its network. So when it comes to any terrorist organization activities around their own private network, that particular token or commodity would not have a value outside of that ecosystem. That is A. And B,
it will not be accessible to people outside that consortium.
Exactly.
So that is why it is private. It is
Exactly.
private to the consortium. So only 20 people or 50 people in that consortium will be able to read
exactly.
and write.
And let's say even if they try to create a hybrid sort of a network where they're indulging some with public and some within their private, there are beautiful analytics platforms that are already live today, like Chainalysis, CoinFirm, and others, through which you can actually trace back and label addresses. While you might not know their identity, you might start labeling these addresses that this address belongs to a terrorist organization, this address belongs to a child trafficker, this address belongs to a scammer, this address belongs to a hacker. So now these addresses starts getting labeled. And let's say if we are transacting in, we might not, like if I am transacting with you, I might not directly know that you are like you might be a nice person, but someone might have transferred funds to you and he might be a hacker. So that entire chain and the entire analytics on the chain gets revealed through platforms like these, through which again the data can be traced back. So that is how the entire tracing and analytics part comes into picture.
Well, thank you so much. With that ringing bell, that was an indicator that we should now shut up and move on. But thank you so much for staying with us throughout the session and being such a lovely audience. Hopefully this discussion was of value to you and you will take away something. All of us are on LinkedIn. Feel free to link us and talk to us. I'm sure we'll be happy to answer your queries on LinkedIn. And I think we have also broken the record of maximum audience questions in our session. I don't think any session allowed so many questions, right? Yeah, especially the previous one, right? I think they had 0 questions. So thank you so much for having those questions, and hopefully we gave you an answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Varun Doob. It gives me an immense pleasure to close the session. We have been hearing Mr. Sharat Chandra, Mr. Puneet Agrawal, and Mr. Sudeep Saxena. I hope all your doubts and queries are solved. It's our privilege and pleasure that we got to hear you. We had you on the dais. In past 3 days, we have had 3 sessions, and this is a power-packed closure of everything. And hereby, I thank everyone who is present here, along with our session speaker and the moderator for the day. Thank you so much for joining us in spite of your busy schedule. I hope we are on time. There are our speakers and the moderator who actually have to catch flights directly after this. So big round of applause for everyone who has joined in here. And thanks for imparting us the right knowledge about the blockchain and its recent developments. Thank you from my side. This is CA Riddhi Jain signing off. And it was indeed a pleasure to be here in the Tech Fusion track. From past 2 days, we've had 3 speakers, 3 sessions, total 18 speakers, 6 moderators, 6 different sessions coming from the industry of blockchain, NFT, cyber security. We have talked about and learned a lot about these things. Hope to see you soon. And you can follow every one of us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, or any of the social media channels for any kind of doubts. Thank you so much.